The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Grandmasters were on the offensive at the Sinquefield Cup in St. Louis. Most people dread Mondays, but these competitors were ready to get back to work following the rest day. Wesley so must like the view from the top, defeating one of his closest rivals to remain in clear first. Wildcard Leinier Dominguez got his first win of the event, jumping up the standings and into contention. Decisive results abounded. Will it be another victory-filled day, or will faltering players look to equalize? Round 7 of exhilarating chess, coming up next.
Welcome to round 7 of the Sinquefield Cup. It has been a thrilling tournament so far, and we have 3 more rounds to go. Let's go back to the studio and follow the action.
Welcome to St. Louis, the home of chess in America. As the St. Louis Chess Club proudly presents the Sinquefield Cup, leaders are emerging, but time is running short. Round 7 starts right now. Hello and welcome. It's round 7. We are in the final straight, and Wesley So has been making all the right moves to secure the lead. But with everything hanging in the balance and with 3 rounds remaining, well, this race to victory is going to be intense. I'm International Master Jovanka Houska, and it's a great pleasure to have these gentlemen sitting next to me sharing all their wisdom. Grandmasters Yasser, Seirawan, and Peter Svidler.
I'm not sure about that sharing. I like to hoard the wisdom. Jovi, it's good to be with you. Good to be with you too, Peter. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my show. Welcome to our show. Snap, crackle, pop. Suddenly, everything exploded in decisive games after the rest day, and wow, is it wonderful to call all the action. But after all the fireworks died down, we have one player who emerged clear first. Jovi, do all the honors and tell us about the standings.
Let's take a look at the standings, and there we see at the top of the table, it's Wesley So, who has 4 points out of 6 after yesterday's victory over Levon Aronian. He's there at the top. Fabiano, Caruana, and Leinier Dominguez both have 3 points out of 5, whereas Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has 3 points out of 6. This game discrepancy is because Jan-Krzysztof Duda withdrew after round 2.
A story we've been following is the ratings race and the candidate spot that's up for grabs by the player who's #1 in the rating.
Yeah, the graphic says it loud and clear. Whoever has the highest rating on January the 1st, 2024 qualifies for the candidates tournaments. It does depend on chess activity, but here it goes. Wesley So is there with 27, 61.5, 10 points ahead of Leinier Dominguez and Alireza Firouzja.
We'll keep an eye on this all-important race for the candidates, but tell us about the format for the Sinquefield Cup.
It's a 10-player round robin with a classical time control of 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, 30 minutes for the rest of the game, and of course the 30-second increment or time bonus, as I like to call it, from move 1. No draw offers allowed and a standard point scoring system.
And as you said, it's a race to the finish. Tell us about the remaining schedule.
Absolutely. 3 rounds remaining. They will be played over 3 days. Final round is on Thursday, November the 30th, and of course, playoffs will happen if needed.
Great. Thank you, Jovi. And Peter, you're going to drill down and tell us about some of the line scores of the players.
Let's take a look at how people got here with 3 rounds to go, and we'll start with the 2 players at the extreme ends of the scale. Wesley So currently leading the tournament Nobody made any progress in the first 3 rounds. You will see this repeatedly. But Wesley then beat Richard Rapport for our first decisive game of the tournament. And even more importantly, in round 6 yesterday, he won a very nice game against his co-leader, Levon Aronian, to progress to clear first in our standings on 4 out of 6. After him, we have somebody who is not really doing all that hot at all. And this is a continuing story for the entire month of November. Four draws to begin with for Alireza Firouzja, and then 2 very painful losses, and he is now in dead last position. It says tied for 7th, but he is on -2, and the other 2 players on 2 points are on -1. Really not going well for him at all. And the 2 other players we're going to be highlighting are Leinier Dominguez, who started by making draws in rounds 1, 2, 4, and 5. And a very nice victory with the black pieces yesterday puts him in a tie for 2nd. And as you've seen on the in the previous segment, also in a good position for the potentially federating spot. And one final player, and the player we've been talking about all year, so it feels correct to highlight him here as well. Fabiano Caruana, who needed to have an absolute nightmare here for anybody to have a chance for the Grand Chess Tour, not having a nightmare, not unexpectedly. 4 draws, then a bye, and then a win. And the last 3 games he played were all with black as well. So really good performance from Fabi. Tied for 2nd, more or less guaranteed to win the Grand Chess Tour. Fantastic, fantastic year for him. And let's take a look at the decisive rounds in general. We've been talking quite a bit about this because of the figures on the left there. No decisive games in the first 3 rounds. But we're getting there. 1 decisive game in round 4, 1 decisive game in round 5, and yesterday we barely had a draw. That game was also at one point looking very, very unbalanced.
Right.
And we're now above 20% for the tournament. Hooray for us.
Remarkable.
And on that note, as we see the playing hall and the players as usual enjoying the company of each other, this is a good thing about these tournaments. They actually do like talking to each other, and you see players analyzing after the games. Even when the game is long and doesn't end peacefully, you still see them sit down and talk to each other about what has gone before. But yeah, this is the best part of my day, introducing Women Grandmaster Anastasia Karlovic, who will tell you more about our tournament. Take it away, Nastya.
Thank you, Peter. I'm also here, not far away, the playing hall, waiting for the players to come over there and give their comments after the games. I'm also taking care of social media accounts, and of course I'm asking everyone to follow our social media and Grand Chess Tour and St. Louis Chess Club, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are waiting for you. Of course everybody is discussing the previous round, 3 decisive games. Everybody is very happy about that and they're asking for more. Let's hope we have another exciting day today. But let me show you show the inside tour which we recorded yesterday. Let's have a walk together to the area where the players can rest. You can see that they can have some coffee or tea. Also, they can have some snacks, and you can see some fruits are there. And some small snacks for them. Big area for the players to stay and to follow their games while their opponents are still thinking. It's forbidden to speak there, just for you to know that, of course, players cannot communicate during the rounds. And now we have a walk and actually come back to the playing hall. So now you know everything what is happening inside the area for the players, and please follow our social media once again if you want to see more. So, and it's time now to come back to the studio for the 7th round, which is about to start.
Thank you, Anastasia. Always nice to see what's going on in the background there, and I like the players area very much. Kind of jealous about those snacks.
I'm jealous about the flowers.
Big pairing coming up. Tell our audience what they can expect for this round 7, and you see it at the top.
It's a good one. Tournament leader Wesley So has the black pieces against man of the moment Fabiano Caruana, and then we have Levon Aronian facing off against Anish Giri, who, remember, he lost yesterday. And Nepomniachtchi is back to the board after yesterday's bye, and this time he faces Alireza Firouzja, who has lost 2 games in a row.
What a difference a year makes. Firouzja, our Grand Chess Tour champion, won everything last year, just everything. He came, he saw, he conquered. But wow, it's gone wrong. It's gone wrong.
There we also saw Dominguez was playing against Richard Rapport.
Exactly.
And because of Jan-Krzysztof Duda's withdrawal in round 2, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave will not be playing today. He has a bye.
Exactly. As we see the players again just early before round 7, all getting their coffees, they've been fighting very hard. They've been, and so have we, by the way, it seems. But what are they fighting for, Jovi?
A lot of money. Look at
Yes.
that. Let me just pick my jaw off the floor. $100,000 for the first place. Second place, net $65,000. Third place, $48,000, as well as those grand chess tour points.
Very important, those GCT points. You finish in the top 3 at the end of the tour, you get $100,000 for being first, 50 for second, 25 for third, as well as an automatic invite to next year's 2024 Grand Chess Tour. And there you see Wesley So on your left, not only winning the the Sinquefield Cup, but also leading the race for the candidates.
Yes.
Getting
And on both
big
levels,
boost there.
actually, there, because if Wesley So wins the Sinquefield Cup, he will also find himself atop of the FIDE circuit. And that means he will have some excellent chances of qualifying to the 2024 candidates tournament next year.
I think if he were to win the FIDE Grand Prix chess circuit points, that would be more important than the rating, and then that means the rating spot is back up for grabs between Anish, Leinier, and Firouzja. The players, what they're doing there is signing a certificate of provenance for the chess sets. The House of Staunton makes these really beautiful DGT-enabled triple-weighted chess sets, and you can own a piece of history if you would like to own the set that Wesley So played in round 7 against Fabiano. You can do that, and there you have it.
It's showtime, Yasser.
Showtime.
And
bring it, Fabi.
absolutely.
Something wrong with the
Fabiano
clock.
with the white pieces. Okay, the arbiter steps in, presses the clock, and Fabiano opening
D2,
up
D4.
with D4. It's a big question for Wesley. Will he take
Wow.
it easy? Will he play solid chess?
Of course, he's going to play the most solid he can. I'm just a little bit taken aback. It was always very funny. I enjoyed the game of basketball a lot, and it was like the tall men in the center, they all want to be guards and dribble the ball up the court. And the guards all want to be big men in the center and block shots. Fabi, I've always associated with one E2, E4, full stop, end of story. E2, E4 is his go-to opening. Now he's playing D2, D4. He's being ambidextrous. He wants to take Wesley out of his Berlins. But what he's going to get instead could be a Queen's Gambit accepted, Peter. It could be a Nimzo Indian. I mean, D2, D4,
Could also
hard to be a master
The last time they
both.
played in the Blitz,
Yep.
Fabi opened up with D4.
Yeah, but no, I mean, everybody has to be universal these days, Jovi. You got to play everything.
Yeah, I would agree with you that Fabi, for me, in my eyes, he's always been predominantly a 1E4 player,
Sure.
but he is extremely well booked up, can play more or less anything. It's not a surprise that perhaps today he didn't really want to deal with the Berlins,
Right.
Or the anti-Berlins. Wesley, interestingly, taking a bit of a pause here. I guess he also felt that D4 is perhaps less likely than E4, and he needs to kind of regather his thought. It's not going to be a complete shock, but I don't think I've ever seen Wesley take a long pause on move 1, and this is a bit interesting that he is now trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, I can imagine the scene, you know, he's in his hotel room, 15 minutes before the game, and he's just looked at every single kind of Berlin that he could have expected, right? He gets to the board, there's one D4 on the table, so it's like, okay, you have to completely do a rethink, and you have to ask yourself, well, what is it that Fabi has seen in my repertoire that Fabi's Nimzo Indian?
And Nimzo Indian on the board.
This is
D4.
This is enjoying a bit of a resurgence, because at some point I felt that white players were not really all that eager to allow the Nimzo, and they would they would switch to the Queen's Gambit ideas by starting with Knight of 3, allowing either the Queen's Indian defense or the Ragozin in the Queen's Gambit. And these days, even in this tournament, we have seen a bunch of Nimzos already. So
exactly.
It seems like people are less unhappy about allowing it.
E2, E3 on the board, Rubinstein, Nimzo, and C7, C5. Okay, that's old school. Today, castles and D5 has dominated the discussions.
We had a game between, that was the somewhat strange game that Levon eventually won against Alireza, right? Which featured... No, that was Knight of 3, B6, Queen B3. And there was also a Bishop D2 Nimzo in a game between...
It was Nepomniachtchi against Fabiano.
For Fabi and Jan, which went Bishop D2, D5, I think A3, Bishop B7, and Fabi did this here, which seemed innocuous, but he actually got a little bit of something there. It was actually
Levon.
It was Levon. It wasn't Fabi. But C5 is the choice today of Wesley. Knight E2 played very, very quickly. And White D5 now says, I do not want you to
double my pawns
on the queen side, and D5 very quickly as well. This is really, really old school, right?
Yes, oh, absolutely. This goes back to 1978 World Championship matches in Baguio City.
Look at this, I'm looking at the database, and I can see 1978, 1988,
Anatoly
the
Karpov,
latest game.
Victor
Okay, was there a 2001? No, I mean, this line has been more or less been forgotten about.
Truly. The players are in a very dusty part of their opening library book. That's one of the things that I've always liked about the modern chess era, is this idea that players are looking at the old books and coming up with new ideas. For example, Bishop A5, Peter.
Yeah. I was about to ask you, because Bishop takes C3 is your standard reply here with the...
Exactly.
Potentially you get something like this, which I believe I have seen before.
Again,
Black can go like castles. You do want to watch for the 45 break, so they would also often just put the knight on E7 here.
Right.
Unless you're worried about Bishop G5, which you might be actually in this particular case. So perhaps you do something slightly more precise. You can start with H6 and then knight E7, for instance. You can be a little bit worse, but it's not going to be horrible.
Right.
But my education on the Nimzo is not really very extensive, so I was wondering, is Bishop A5 playable?
Well, let's ask Jovi. What does the database tell us, Jovi?
It tells us that it is playable, but the players have been racing. They've taken...
Yeah, like this is all
C5.
standard for them. So A3, Bishop A5. Now, again, everybody has been playing Bishop takes C3 for decades. Bishop A5 is a different wrinkle. Captures on C5, captures on C4, taking advantage of the fact that the knight on E2 at the moment is in the way, and after takes, Bishop D2.
I was just going to say that the old main line was just simply to go queen takes queen.
But queen takes D8.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
And then they play that end game, so queen takes, and then bishop takes.
I'm assuming knight D4, I guess, yeah?
Knight D4 makes sense, because you want to recap. And do they go bishop E7?
I think knight B7 maybe is a bit more precise. At least that's what it seems to be suggesting. Bishop B7, it says white has a definite pull.
Yes,
but knight B7 with the idea, if white goes C5, C6, we have this very important move, knight E5, protecting our weakness on C4, suggesting that knight D3 check could become playable, and also provoking white to develop some of our pieces for us. So after knight B7 seems like black is completely okay, because this is very symmetrical and very level after bishop C4, knight C5. But bishop D2 is a lot more ambitious here.
Yeah.
And how do they match up against one another, Jovi? These two great players.
Let's take a look, and there you can see Fabiano has 4 wins to Wesley's 5.
Wow!
So Wesley there with a small advantage. 32 draws, though. I mean,
they know each other very, very well after 32 draws. Bishop D2, still all part of the latest and greatest.
Yeah, this is now transposed to a more modern line, and there I can see that it's been played by Wojciech, and Yasser, Fedoseyev, and a lot of draws, I have to say.
Sounds like as though it's been very topical. How does the line continue now after Bishop D2?
Knight BD7.
Knight b8,
Knight b7 is one way to go. The engine is also suggesting something like, and you can get this position in two different orders. You can castle, and after knight g3, play b7, b6. C takes b6. The idea is to go for this gambit, preserving the pawn on c4, because if it survives, it cramps white's style quite a bit. Let's say b takes a7, we can go rook a7. And the kind of a development, in particular with the rook also coming into d7, black now has fantastic compensation. Castling isn't even possible because there's pressure against the bishop on d2. You can go knight c6 once again. Knight c6, knight e5, knight d3 is a plan. So this provides black with decent play for the pawn. So normally you would just take on c4, eventually. B takes c5, let's say queen c2. You're keeping some options of castling queenside open, but with the b file semi-open, I don't think we're doing that. We're probably still castling kingside. Black has a somewhat weakened pawn on c5.
Right.
There will be something for white to play, but generally speaking, some kind of a position like this, I would assume, is not going to be very bad for black at all, because there's a very decent diagonal for this bishop. This bishop could return to c7, forming a very nice pairing, looking at the white king. I think they're called Horowitz bishops, right? The bishops on b7 and c7, or d3 and b2 for white very often.
Yeah.
Endgames probably are a little bit better for white, but we're a long way away from an endgame here. But I think Fabi will not be dissatisfied with this as well. Plenty of pieces left on the board, a lot of complicated ideas. Just a playable position, and playable positions are the name of the game in modern opening theory, I feel.
Portends are good for us, Jovi, as we're hoping for a great clash between our tournament leaders. Wesley So again comes into this round with a half-point lead over Fabi, and we've got a kind of game, not exactly a Berlin ending that we were fearful about, but really with all the pieces on the board.
And for Wesley, this might be territory unknown as well, so...
Bishop d2, knight b8, d7 on the board.
And this is another move that Jovanka was suggesting. And now, once again, the knight seems to never go to d4 here, I guess because we want to sidestep potentially 6e5 counterplay if we do. And this position, it doesn't look like very much after, let's say, bishop c7, sidestepping the fork with b2, b4. But you can probably still claim a little bit of an edge in a position like this, because we... very often what you want to do is you want to play b4, shoo the knight away, and then put your knight on e4, giving the bishop the c3 square. It becomes a bit of a race, because obviously if black is in time to play b6, bishop b7 while we're still finishing development, or perhaps bishop d7, c6, black will be completely fine. There are no weaknesses. It's a very symmetrical structure. But when you have a slight edge in development in this position, sometimes it can actually mean something. Sometimes you will be able to exert some pressure. So knight b7, of course, completely playable.
Early moves there. Knight b d7. You said knight g3, knight takes c5, bishop takes c4. Why aren't we dropping in on d3 check?
I think we need for check in the end. I was also wondering about that. But then I realized,
whoops,
this costs you a bishop.
Oh. Hate that.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying when that happens.
Exactly.
Okay, well, definitely
Where would you like to take
interesting
us,
game there. And let's go to Levon Aronian against Anish Giri.
Okay, looks like an intriguing position
Absolutely.
we have on the board. Okay.
Not a moves played.
Petrov, defense, the Russian defense with bishop d6. Again, I'm going to give Nepo a great deal of credit for, this bishop d6 line had always been there, Peter, but it has become the primary
he's definitely done quite a bit to do that, but it's been enjoying a resurgence even before that. And I want to say that the line that they're playing right now, if we get to, once again, trying to adequately cover the history of this line will take us the entire broadcast. So I will say that knight c3 is a kind of an old school approach. This used to be very heavily discussed, both with the inclusion of cd5, and without. Without, black is sort of supposed to do this, because you want to develop the bishop prior to moving the knight to good squares. Structurally, if you give black time to play knight d7, knight b6, knight d7, and knight d6, you might even start liking black a little bit. But of course, white will have something to say about it, so bishop g5 chases the queen away. For a while, white were very, very seriously discussing the move d4, d5 here. There have been some brilliant games played starting with d5, but I think people sort of universally understand that this is not going to give you an advantage against a well-prepared player. Anish obviously covers that definition quite well. But what I want to say is that the position after knight h4, which is the second most critical move here, Bishop e6, a very clever hidden idea of the move queen a5. Bishop takes e6, queen takes g5, eventually.
You can do
and
it.
knight f3. The game that immediately pops in my mind when I see this position is a very, very nice victory by Anish Giri himself on the white side in a Bundesliga match where he beat Fabiano Caruana. I think I was playing next to Fabi in that match, if I remember correctly. So Anish has very, very good understanding of this position, and he is now defending it from the other side. I think Fabi went back to d8. Anish himself here goes queen a5.
Right.
Queen b3 is not forced. I don't think black is not developed enough to go pawn hunting. I think if we go bishop d3, queen takes e3 is probably ill-advised because something like
bad might happen.
Yeah, like something like this, +4 suddenly.
Wow.
I
Queen
was
h5.
wondering if this was dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's
It's
lethal.
lost.
It ends the game.
There's a lot of pressure on
It's just
f7.
lethal.
Lethal.
So black will be playing knight d7, knight f6 anyway. But Levon plays queen b3.
Tickling the pawn on
yeah.
d7.
And also, of course, important
Whoops.
to point out that this doesn't work at all. It just drops
A pawn.
material. So queen b3 has been met by queen c7. The bishop went all the way back to h3, and Anish developed the knight to d7. Honestly, it looks like absolutely nothing to me. I don't quite understand why. You know, if we
The bishop's great.
Exactly. If we're choosing between b3 for this bishop and
Yeah.
h3, I'm picking b3 every single time.
Me too.
But Levon obviously is very well prepared. He has some idea here. He is doing this for a reason. I just don't currently know what this reason is. And another thing to remark here is this new world in which Levon is a 1e4 player is a very confusing world to me. Because
Right.
I played so many Grunfelds against him, which is difficult to do if your opponent goes 1e4.
Exactly.
But he is very, very serious about remaking himself into a 1e4 player. Has a lot of ideas everywhere. Works on chess very diligently.
Right.
So he isn't doing this just randomly. He
Right.
clearly, and he's played a4 already in this position. He clearly has some kind of a setup in hand. I assume the bishop on h3 will eventually, after g3, will get transferred over to g2. And a4 is a novelty, we're being told by a production team as well. So yeah, Levon will have some kind of an idea here as to how to press black and perhaps ask some questions. But it doesn't look sensational, right?
No.
We put the knight on f6, we play
Sure.
rook f8, we play g6, king g7, all of those things. Yes, the pawn can get to a5, but I don't know if that really exerts all that much pressure on the black position.
Yeah.
Exactly. How do these two match up against one another,
let's
Jovi?
have a look. What are you expecting? I'm expecting a lot of draws.
Not this!
Oh, but
Whoa,
look
wow,
at that. That
that's
is
not an
definitely
adoption
one-sided.
yet.
8 wins
Wow.
to 0 in Levon's favour. 21 draws, though.
Yeah, but 10-0 we call an adoption. That means they can come over and stay as long as they want. Good customer. 8-0. Who's your best customer, Peter?
Among the very top players for the longest time, I think I had the best score surprisingly against Hikaru. Once again, useful to start playing them when they're young.
Right.
But at some point I started losing games and it's no
Right.
longer as stellar as it was.
8-0. Wow.
Massive, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, Jovi, let's continue our look around the horn here as Levon and Anish are playing a very theoretical duel, as Peter said. Nothing spectacular in it at the moment. We'll jump to the game between Jan and Alireza. Again, what can we say? Alireza's just had an absolutely torturous November.
Yes.
I mean, losing 27 rating
Well, he
points or
started
whatever.
with 27.77,
Right.
and now on the live we saw
27.51.
27.51. Oh, and putting
Brutal.
his rating spot for the candidates in jeopardy.
And we have a Slav defense, classical, with bishop f5, knight h4. This has become a very, very modern
This
trend.
is a
Going back
very,
to,
very topical line.
yeah, Kramnik and Topalov from their World Championship match. And Peter, jump right in. Is this all theory? Are we?
I used to play the Slav a little bit, but I never played this particular line, so I wouldn't know about the current state of theory. I think people, these days I see a lot more of games where white actually kind of waits on the c takes d5 trade, which very often will prompt
bishop
black,
d2.
To take on c4 themselves and then push for the c5 break, trying to resolve the central situation that way. And here, Jan instantly clarifies everything. The thing to argue why this maybe is a bit more comfortable for black is that if you don't wait for knight b7 before taking on d5, you give this knight by far the best square for it to be developed to, which is what we're seeing. The knight instantly jumps to c6. And in this final position, it looks very solid, and the question is, how are we going to make any progress with white? Generally, I mean, one suggestion would be you wait for black to castle kingside. Let's say, I don't know, we play queen d1 or bishop d3, maybe more relevant. We wait for black to castle kingside, and now we start with g4 followed by h4, h5, and so on. Black, of course, will have something to say about it. White will not be able to make 5 moves in a row here, but at least there is now a target available for us.
Right.
But the situation in the center, I feel, is stable enough that black is absolutely not committed to castling immediately. I think you can, but you can also wait, because I think knight a5, c4, followed perhaps by b7, b5, making some kind of an advance on the queen side, and then seeing if it's safe to castle kingside, or perhaps it's just better to keep the king on e8 for the time being and see what white does. White has the advantage of the bishop pair, but the bishops aren't really that impressive so far.
No.
Something you would very much like to do here is to organize an e4, e3, e4 break, but our pawn on d4 is so vulnerable currently that it'll take some doing. I don't quite see how we achieve that easily in any kind of the immediate future. So seems very balanced for me, but Jan is doing this very, very quickly, and Alireza is also not spending too much time. This is 4 minutes above the starting time.
Wow.
And one little tidbit that we learned prior to the show today, which might be a bit relevant, Alireza streamed Title Tuesday today, which he apparently mixed up when the buy for him is in this tournament. He's still to get his buy for the game against Jan-Krzysztof Duda, and he thought it was today. It's not, as we can see on our screens.
He's at the board?
Yeah, so good thing the title didn't start at like 12 St. Louis time, which would have been a bigger problem.
Awkward.
Yeah. I don't know how, maybe we should find out how, if he won the title, maybe this is a good portent for things to come.
No, yeah, I think he had to give up playing, right?
Oh. Yeah, well, of course. I mean,
I think
because
he got to 6 out of 7,
yeah.
and then had to stop.
That's an even worse feeling. Like, he's doing well in the tournament.
Right.
He's very much in the running for the victory in the sort of most important event of today.
But I guess, though, psychologically, you just want to win a few games.
No.
I mean, actually winning the whole Title Tuesday,
Tell our
irrelevant.
audience what the Title Tuesday is, and
well, it's an online tournament that happens every Tuesday. There are two. There's the early one, and then there's the later one. So I'm presuming that he played the later one.
And it's like $1,000 for the
I think this is
prize?
actually the early one. The later one
The
comes,
early one,
yeah.
Ah, okay.
Because of Pacific Standard Time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like $1,000, and so he thought he had a free day.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, let's take a look at the line score on our screen there.
For Alireza? Well, again,
Not great.
no,
Not
brutal,
great at all.
especially
4
when
draws
you're raced
and,
for the ratings.
2 losses there at the end.
Yeah.
And they've been very painful losses as well. You know, his game yesterday with the white pieces against Fabiano was very sharp. And he was just met with someone who was in form. But
Wow.
Alireza, well, he did come up with a nice line today.
What did you do?
What
did he say?
I don't prepare for Nepo. Nepo prepares for me.
Yeah, baby, that's what we're talking. Tell us about this current position, Jovi, this theoretical duel going on here. What is the most popular move after Rook C8 for Jan?
Well, the most natural move is one that Pete has indicated, the bishop coming out to d3. I don't think Black is tactically ready to play moves like knight to a5 yet.
Not when the rook is sitting vis-a-vis the queen.
And I actually have some experience of playing this position from the white side of things. It's not that easy for Black to necessarily make progress without committing the king.
Yeah, well, let's do it. I'll castle. I mean...
You're going to go for it?
Well, just show me how you're going to kill me. Are you going to go h4, g4? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
There's nothing more sophisticated than
That's
that.
all you
we
got?
might have to preface this with a queen to d1. So bishop d3, queen to d1, just to stop knight a5.
Okay.
But I have h4, g4 in my pocket,
Yeah,
and it's
not
coming
running away.
your way.
Yeah. As advertised, h4 and g4. And what does the theory tell us about this? Does white win the majority of the games, or what's happening here?
I think there's very few, so we can't really draw
Not enough data.
Kind of big conclusions from this. But if we put the moves bishop d3, castles, and queen d1 on our screen, our engine here, which some players who've been doing interviews in Anastasia's studio have been saying, like our engine is better than this engine. This is still a decent engine.
Okay.
It seems to like this for white now. It says that the threats of g4, h4, h5 are so quick that perhaps it's time to immediately start organizing something in the center, following the old maxim that, if you're playing on the flank, I'm supposed to counterattack in the center. But white can for now just ignore it, because g5 is a bigger threat with knight takes d5 to follow if we chase away the f6 knight.
Right.
And it's not unmanageable, but it's definitely something that white, I think, will enjoy more than black. And the moves that I see black trying to play in this position, apart from castles, like the best move supposedly in this position is the move knight f6, d7, which I think is not easy to arrive at. My guess is we're actually trying to make queen a4 into not a check.
Right.
To play knight a5, knight c4.
Right.
So we absolutely do need this knight on c4 as soon as possible, and immediately it very much runs into queen a4 check, and you have to go back because b5, knight takes b5, you've resigned.
Whoops.
You've just completely resigned. So you go knight d7. If white goes h4, once again, white is very often just putting this pawn unprise because the open h file is just more important than anything.
Right.
An additional point to knight d7 is we've given ourselves, and knight d7 on the screen, by the way, by Alireza, bishop d3 immediately met by knight d7. We've given ourselves an additional idea here of playing queen b6 and asking, do you want to drop back to d1 and allow us to... Now we can take on h4, now in some positions bishop a3 will become a question, and so on. So it preserves flexibility, it doesn't give white a very obvious target on the king side of the king being on g8. And also it does seem like Alireza just knows, because this is not a random thing. This is very much a suggestion of the engine. And knight e2 also played very quickly by Jan, indicating that perhaps e3, e4 is now playable
on his menu.
Yeah, and this could become very sharp. Yeah.
Look at how fast
this is
all theory, right?
Is it?
We earlier saw games
Who
between.
are we following?
Huh?
Who are we following? Who are the players?
Actually, Hikaru against Fabiano.
Wikis.
I got distracted there because I looked at the screen and suddenly I'm seeing A4 and it's still
A4.
after the move.
That wasn't what we were taught in school. We were told not to push the pawns in front of our king.
It's extremely concrete. And considering how quickly both of them are playing, I have a feeling that this line that I see on my screen might be relevant, and it's fantastic.
Please.
B takes a4 already played by Alireza, queen takes a4. Now there's this massive problem along the c file, which I think makes the next move just absolutely forced, because you cannot afford allowing like rook c2, rook h c1, you will just lose. So you have to play knight b6.
Tickling the queen.
If the queen goes back, black has solved many of his problems, and also, as you said, playing on the queen side.
Maybe it's not such a good idea.
Yeah, and then not making any progress is not really making too much sense here. So we take on a6 to at least have something.
I won a pawn,
And we also create a very important threat of bishop d3, b5, which will skewer everything. Rook a8, seemingly blundering stuff. And then just king d7 is the engine suggestion here. stepping into the spin sort of foolhardily. And saying, we want to go rook hb8, and then like if we continue with this, after rook hb8, rook hc1, knight c4, no, it's still playable because you can take with 1c4 with the bishop. And of course, rook b5, bishop b5 is completely lost. But for instance, there's this move queen a7 here, which...
As Victor Korchnoi would say, with unpleasant sensations.
Yes.
Queen a6.
And for instance here, black just very calmly goes into this endgame. Yes, black is a pawn down, but structurally this is very, very nice for black. This is a much superior bishop to this one. The king on b1 isn't very safe. And the threats aren't really, apart from this very nice idea that I can see on my screen here, after something like rook d1, perhaps intending to bring this over to d3, black goes knight a7. And the idea of knight b5, knight a3, if it lands, could be very, very painful, to such an extent that the suggestion is maybe even to go knight c3, knight c6, knight e2, because allowing knight b4 is also not going to be very much fun. And whoa, while I was giving this speech,
brilliant speech.
We're already here.
The players have arrived.
Yeah, no, it's very clear that they have a kind of an agreement that this is a critical line. They have both looked at it. There's no way you can arrive here in 10 minutes without this being something Yeah, and this is still very, very theoretical. There's more than 20 games have already reached this.
But I can tell you, all of those games, with the exception of one, finished in a draw, which indicates to me that there is a repetition somewhere along.
Such as what Peter was showing, knight a7 and knight c6. King d7, you know, here there's nothing about strategy. It's actually just sheer calculation. I mean, everything is move after move after move. Rook c3.
Rook c3 already played. I'm trying to figure out what the difference would be if we go rook h8. Now, after rook c1, knight c4, and bishop c4, black is in trouble because I guess the big, massive difference is we've given ourselves a square on c2. So queen a7, we just lose to bishop takes d5 because this is no longer mate.
Right.
Very important difference between rook c2 and rook c3. So much so that the suggestion is to go knight a4. That would be a drawback to rook c3 because the rook can be immediately attacked by the knight. You can play rook b3, but that appears to not give you any advantage. And the main move here is rook c6, queen 6, and rook c1, forcing black to go into this endgame.
Okay.
And
it's an exchange for a pawn.
Yeah, but there's a knight on a4, which is very, very misplaced. So you can play rook c6, cutting off the final square. I think if the pawn is on h3 here, white might be winning.
But
black can start by going knight b2, rook b2, and rook h2.
Oh.
And the king on d8 seems not very safe, but there is no way to give any checks to it. Like the only square to give a check from is a5. It's very well covered. g3 is hanging, so you can go g3. So g2 is hanging. And in this position, the engine says this is fairly balanced and starts giving choices to black. Until that moment, it seemed...
Can I ask, why did black jettison the knight?
Yeah,
was it forced?
If you start with rook takes h2, a pawn survives on the queen side.
Aha.
And this is more important than the g pawn not surviving. You very much want...
passer.
Yeah, you very much want not to give white a passer he can exploit on the other side of the board.
By the way, rook c3, as played by Jan, we're still in the theory. This is still part of that 20 games played, Jovi?
Yeah. And, well, a very interesting position. Let's check out their lifetime scores against each other. And what are we expecting?
Not so many games.
Not so many games, in fact. Just 5 in total. But of those 5 games, this is pretty impressive that you still...
7, 4, 2, 1. 4 wins, 2 losses. But it's okay. Very combative games. Very combative. I mean, one draw. These guys don't like. They don't like draws.
No, they don't.
6 out of 7 decisive games is kind of unbelievable for 2 players of such caliber. But
exactly.
Yeah, promises good things. Although this being as heavily theoretical as it very obviously is.
Yes.
Perhaps today we will see just a correctly played game. Rook c3, for the first time in this game, finally forced Alireza to think. Perhaps,
Stop.
Well, remember, I'm pretty sure he is not actually trying to calculate from scratch.
Right.
He is trying to remember what the file says. Rook hc8 with the intention of protecting c6 and then playing queen a7 appears to be playable, at least for the time being. And also, the lines are quite outlandish here because in response, white just takes on c6 and then abandons this rook altogether. Says, bringing the king over to safety, more important than the exchange here. Black needs to play knight c4 here. And after bishop takes c4, d5, e5, knight d4, black is just in time to simplify. And you will have to defend the pawn down ending, because very importantly, white is just in time to play b2, b3 here using the pin. But you're also not really winning this. Black needs to play really, really poorly from here, I feel, to lose the 4 against 3 on one side with the bishops of the same color, the dark squared bishop here and here. Very famously, I think, Peter Lekov won one of these against Vladimir Kramnik in Brissago, but the structure was different. And interestingly, in that game, white had a doubled pawn on the king's side, and that actually made defense more difficult because you can push them as a kind of more of a group. But this looks like this should be reasonably comfortably holdable.
Wow, what a tabia that they're playing. A tabia position, opening position. They're just
complicated position.
Would
you voluntarily go into a memory fast?
No. Well, I mean, the point is today's modern players, their files are so extensive. They're literally looking at openings into endings. The transitions from the openings are so deep, they go not just into the middle games, but far beyond the middle games. Rook c3. And I'm just stopping here and I'm thinking about this because, again, you know, this is one of those positions where it's just rock solid calculation. And it's like this black king on d7, for some strange reason, is not as vulnerable as somehow this king on b1, which has a little bit more shelter. We're seeing these ideas with queen a7, rook c8 and queen a7. But, you know, my instinct would be that this king on d7 should be, you know, ransacked, not just, you know, it should be destroyed.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But it's hanging in there. Knight a4.
Knight a4 chosen, yeah. Alireza clearly
That they're playing
remembered
the
what the-
line.
yeah.
And you gave us the line
Rook takes c6, and
queen takes
the
c6.
longer the engine thinks about playing rook b3 here, the less it likes it. Rook b3, rook hb8, rook c1. Another one of these really strange lines where things are hanging and nobody pays any heed to it. Rook b5, bishop takes b5 is a bit too early for black. It's still playable, but there's no particular reason to give this white unchallenged because the queen really isn't running away. So currently it starts by playing bishop d6 in this position. And
Chill.
white still can't really do anything. The main two moves here are e3, e4, and bishop b4. But after both of those, black enjoys a little advantage. And yeah, it was very, very unlikely that Jan would not go into the line that we were indicating. And they're already progressing towards it at breakneck speed. We are, what, half an hour into the round? This is move 24. Maybe even not half an hour, right? Maybe
Rook c6
And
rook c6
also. Trapping the knight.
Trapping the knight on a4, b2, b3, huge threat, because then we will keep our queenside pawn. So we're expecting knight
Knight takes
b2 and
b2.
rook h2.
Knight b2 is...
And have games been played in that
Yes.
position, Jovi?
Yes, how many games? Quite a few games.
Wow, I see
and
that.
a
I'm
lot of
looking at your
draws again.
screen. Wow.
16 games with
So
knight
what-
takes
what
b2.
would be the highest rated
What are the
if
names?
you can see
Give us some of the
Actually,
names.
not so high rated, but we do have a very strong Monika Sochko, Polish grandmaster, faced off against Gunay Mamadzada. That was in 2022, and there Monika won
With the white side.
with the white side, yeah.
Exactly. Well, we have prepared, thanks to Ben Underwood, our statistician, easy for me to say, some decisive rounds throughout the years. Let's have a look and see how in the Sinquefield Cups of years we get these rounds
Yeah.
and the performances of the players.
And there you can see, in 2015 was a very combative year, but 2022, 31.11%.
By 2018, the players had learned the art of defense to such a degree,
Yeah.
nobody could win. And
But it's
how does
interesting.
our tournament compare? Well, we weren't comparing very well in the first 3 rounds. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's very interesting, and we've made an improvement over 2018, right? Because that
Correct.
was under
We were-
20%.
Yeah,
and
we're
now
beating
we've-
that.
We're killing it.
We're beating
But I
that
was
with
just
3
going to say
rounds to go.
2015 that it was so combative, full of
Yeah.
decisive results, and then it's kind of gone up and down. You haven't seen like a solid trajectory anywhere.
Well, the thrill of a Sinquefield Cup with such a huge prize fund and players, and we remember the streak of Fabi. Knight takes b2.
Knight b2 has been played.
Advertised, Peter.
Yeah, you can't not take it, of course, because allowing it to escape via the c4 square would be bad. So we do take. Of course, black should pick up the pawn on h2 once again. If we
Right.
don't, you will eventually lose. I'm expecting g3. There's also an immediate repetition available here if Jan wants it, because after rook b6, the threat of rook b7 and then rook
killing.
g7 is so strong that black needs to react to it by playing king c7, and then we have a reasonably logical repetition because the engine is suggesting white just isn't better at all after g3 and says rook f2 is playable. Even a kind of a strange maneuver here of playing bishop g5. I'm not sure what threat is being created.
Bishop g5.
Provoking f4 and then going back. I don't know why f4 is bad. I don't know why. But I think the conclusion we draw from this is black can give white 2 moves in a row here
Right.
and still be okay.
Okay.
Maybe the idea is to stop e3, e4. Maybe this is
Yeah.
how we explain it.
Nice.
But it is actually very difficult to come up with a move for black. You
Well,
know,
the rook F2
because the rook on A8 is
very
completely
important.
tied down.
Very
because of
important not to
bishop
do that.
A5
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. But I mean, in order to stop E3, E4, I would find myself drawn to the move Rook F2.
Yeah, but white plays
provoking
E4 anyway, and it
really?
actually becomes a bit sharper. We get here.
No way. So that's
we
a
get
pawn.
here, and you can try, for instance, playing bishop before, trying to land it on C7, and actually start attacking the king on D8.
Right.
It hangs for, it holds for black because supposedly the threat I advertised as very important can just be ignored by the move Rook F2. I don't know if it's the only move, but once again, an indication that whatever white is doing on the queen side isn't as bad as all
Fatal,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking with the rook on F3 for just a moment, Peter. I was thinking, okay, I see bishop C7 as a threat, but I also see I can play bishop A3 check with a gain of tempo to just give my king the E7 square, so I wouldn't feel...
It goes to C2, and
Yeah.
you want to start running.
Well, I'm not saying I'm kind of waiting for you to give me a check. and get me
No,
to
but
run on knight
maybe an
C3.
additional threat, and and maybe even a bigger threat.
Is knight C3.
Did I ruin the screen? No, good. I was worried. Bishop C7 we mentioned, but maybe knight C3
Knight
takes D5 is an actual bigger
Serious.
problem.
Okay.
And in particular after bishop A3 check, because if we
Right.
make a waiting move here of some sort, the immediate knight C3 might run into rook F2 check, and that might be a bit of an issue.
Okay.
But if you take away the A3 square so that you don't have rook A3 to follow it up, then it
Right.
becomes even stronger.
Gotcha.
And if black wants to continue the game with moves like G5, I mean, is this bad?
Challenge.
Challenge, I mean, it
G5,
gets
now we
bishop
give a check.
C7, and where does the king run?
King
C8?
has to go to C8, and now once again it says knight C3 is playable. It's not that bad actually. It seems to hold it on those squares. Like if the bishop retreats along this diagonal, I'm pretty sure we're going back to G8. If it gives a
Right.
check from here, obviously D8 will not be available, but we can use B8, B7 squares.
And does white always have a bailout? Like, for instance, in this position, I mean, can you just retreat the bishop?
Bishop
and-
E5.
Yeah, always the
you can
prepare.
even go forward because after rook C7 check, yes, we're going to lose this bishop, but we can attack the bishop on B5 and balance the position that way. So yeah, rook takes H2 in the meantime has been played. So
We have a remaining game, Jovi. We haven't.
Yes, and it's our
let's
favorite
cue it
opening.
Up. Caro Khan.
It has
I mean,
been
if
played.
you want to play for a win
I
with
think
black,
it's our first Caruana of the tournament, so we have to celebrate
Yay.
such things.
and it's Leinier with white pieces against Richie Rapport. The Nigel Short, I call it the short defense to the Caro Khan, and he said libel, libelous, it's the short attack. He said. I said not at all, not at all. You're seizing the defensive as white.
But
Yes.
I remember as a youngster, I was very miffed that Short had
Nigel.
been accorded this variation in his honor, because I was like, literally, I was playing like this as a 10-year-old.
Really?
Yeah, but obviously
It's
there was
the Jovi attack?
No. It's the kind of make it up as you go along, right? Because if you want to make it up, you're going to go knight F3, bishop E2, castles, knight H4, push.
Right?
And I was very successful as a kid with this type
Fantastic.
of, yeah.
I mean, sharing of the honors.
No. The 10-year-old attack is what I would call it.
This move, knight F3 to E1, talk about a telegraph about attacking pawns. The ideas of G4, F4, definitely on Leinier's agenda.
But I just wanted to mention that
Please.
this is a very trendy line that Richard has just employed with pushing the pawn to A5, doing a very quick A4.
It's unusual to my eyes as well. I'm more familiar with
It's
the
very
knight
trendy.
E7.
It's very trendy, and it normally has the idea that after white puts a knight on B3, you just go A4, and then you kind of chip away at the center with F6.
Indeed. I'm a lot of pages being borrowed from French defense with Queen B6. But, I mean, it looks to me kind of like a Frankenstein A5, A4, Queen B6, a mixture of several ideas that appear, at least to my eyes, to be bad. When I said Frankenstein, I wasn't being facetious. I really meant it. A5, A4, Queen B6. What's going on, Peter?
them's fighting words.
You're right.
Bad. Not just dubious, bad.
Bad.
I don't know. It's the thing about this line is I've played 3e5 against the Caro, and specifically e5, knight of 3. I began by playing knight c3 here in the mid-90s.
Exactly.
And then I very quickly switched to knight of 3 because it kind of suited me better and also allowed for like less mayhem, because the knight c3 lines get unbelievably complicated very, very quickly. But I also occasionally double in this with black, because I feel that Caro is, in must-win games in particular, is maybe the best choice you have. Because it's not that easy to kill the game off completely in the Caro. In particular, if you play e5 and black just starts doing random things, such as perhaps what Richard is doing here.
Right, random.
You're probably not equalizing, but it's also very, very difficult to properly orient yourself here with white, because you have so many plans and all of them look playable, and you have to make a choice. So you start burning time. It's interesting that Leinier has only really started thinking here, because I would have already been slightly confused by a5. It's definitely not the main move in this position.
And it's usually played as a reaction to knight d2 to b3.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. With the knight on b1, it
Knight
seems
on
like...
b1,
exactly.
you attack.
Yeah, but Leinier pretty much blitzing out knight e1 and c3. Seems like he expected this as a possibility today and actually checked this particular line. And queen b6 is the only move so far that gave him pause. But you have so many options here. You can play bishop d3, which is something that people generally, I think, don't like doing because it's not very aggressive. But you still, like, you get your knight to a good square. The other one might come to f3. You play bishop e3. Perhaps you start pushing here. Perhaps actually a4 gives you some ideas of playing on the queen side. This would be one option. An option in a completely different direction would be just to start pushing.
Right.
Yeah, this is the one that's always scary, right? For black, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that f5 is coming.
Yeah. Right.
So you have to go
you're
knight
trapping
e7.
the bishop on the one hand, but
so
you're exposing your
knight
king on
e7.
the other.
It goes knight a3 here, using the fact that it can no longer be captured, and then this knight is headed over to the e3 square, supporting the push in the center. Now this is all massively, massively sharp and unclear. You can also just go knight d3, once again protecting the pawn on b2, trying to develop this one over there.
Also a possibility that after g4, you don't go back with the bishop, but instead you take the knight. You don't lose time that way and then go moves like h5 and then
This is not great, because actually this gets just snapped off very often. And this I've learned from even in the French. Very often it just gets snapped off, the bishop goes to g4, and you find out that putting anything on f5 is not going to be so easy. And very often it just means you're down a pawn and your plans haven't really progressed very far. So h5 wouldn't worry me unduly. I would be more worried about f6, because with the queen on b6, we cannot really support our center. I mean, white is still apparently massively better because black is completely undeveloped.
Right.
And now we sidestep with the king. The knight has to go somewhere. And we just go c3, c4, or even knight f3, knight g5.
Bishop d2.
And
yeah, you kind of want to take back that pawn on a4 because you'd much rather castle the king.
Yeah.
Queenside.
Jovi, Leinier kind of introduced himself back into the conversation thanks to his victory yesterday. You saw in that race for the rating spot as well. Tell us about his road ahead. He's in second place at +1.
Ben Underwood, our resident statistician, also uncovered a very unusual fact. Leinier Dominguez is undefeated in the Sinquefield Cup, full stop. And
in all of the years he's competed, he hasn't lost a single game.
Yep.
That is really a fabulous achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of players would be envious of such a...
Yes, but he does have a tough road ahead, though. He's facing Richard Rapport, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Levon Aronian.
Right.
so white today, white also tomorrow against MVL.
A double white.
A double white for Leinier there.
Right.
So very promising. And perhaps at this point we could, because we have a bit of we covered all 4 games, we could speak a little bit more at length about the situation with the FIDE circuit and the rating race. So for the rating race, the situation seems very, very straightforward. Wesley is a full 10 points ahead of Leinier.
Okay.
With, as things stand right now, this being their last classical tournament until the list in question, the 1st of January list 2024. And there you have it on your screen. Thank you very much to our production team, a visual aid to illustrate the point I'm making. Yeah, to illustrate the point I'm making. Seems like this is very clear cut, but it's not, because there's 2 considerations to be made. First one is Wesley is also currently leading the Sinquefield Cup. 3 rounds to go. If he ends up winning the Sinquefield Cup, he very possibly will actually head the list for the FIDE circuit.
Takes precedent
This is still very much in play because, for instance, Gukesh is in contention there, and Gukesh is playing 2 classical tournaments in December.
Wow.
So this is less nailed on. But it's very possible that Wesley wins the FIDE circuit. If Wesley wins the FIDE circuit, the place goes back to the rating, and the next person on that list still gets the rating spot, which is, I think, why Alireza is now fervently wishing Wesley does well here.
Right, his biggest fan.
Yeah, he suddenly, turned into, I think he began by thinking, if Wesley does poorly here, I just get the rating spot.
Right.
But now that the tournament has gotten to a point where he's 10 points behind, he is fervently praying for Wesley to continue doing really, really well.
Right.
And then it comes back to the rating. First of all, he needs to overtake Leinier.
Right.
But secondly, there is an additional quirk there, because if Leinier actually ends up snatching the rating spot, he still needs to play 1 more classical tournament in December, because
activity requirement.
This is what we mentioned in passing during the opening sequence. To be eligible, you need to play 4 classical tournaments.
I see.
In the time period that is being counted, and Leinier currently is apparently at 3, even with this included. With this included. So it will be very, very interesting if he actually gets there. He will have to find something to play in December.
Okay.
And he will have to do well, because you still can't lose rating. So he'll have to find a tournament to play in December on very, very short notice. I don't know how easy that is.
Right.
And then he'll have to play well in it. But this whole situation is now very intricate, and there is a lot of permutations available that needs to be kind of paid attention to.
Thank you for that, Peter. And then that you got from Emil.
I got some confirmation
from
from the FIDE side of things. Yeah.
Right.
From
Just
Emil Satovsky,
from the
General.
horse's mouth, so to speak. Thank you for that. Queen b6. We are waiting for Leinier at this moment after the move Queen b6. I must say, for me, again, I'm relating it to what I would think of a French defense. I'm not a big fan of the bishop d3. I understand I'm bringing my knight to a good square, but I'm kind of hoping to use this bishop as a tempo gainer, whether it be for g4, f4. A big question for yourselves. First of all, are we in theory? Why aren't I playing knight a3? You mentioned in passing that if Leinier were to play knight a3, bishop takes a3 is a possibility.
It's an option at least. Yeah.
But I'm trying to
I
bring
would be
the knight
tempted to
e3.
take it, because the knight is going to come to c2 and then e3
That was
and
the
then
plan.
support the pawn storm, which
Exactly.
I'm terrified of.
Right? So you've
Black
given
is almost ready to play c6, c5, so you're not going to have a completely unchallenged time of it pushing on the king's side.
Okay.
I don't think
Also,
this
the bishop and the knight, they tend to fight each other for the same squares,
Right,
right? You know, like
vacate
a knight
the square
goes
for
to e7, a knight goes
right.
to e7, blocks in the bishop, and then
So if I go like g4, you go bishop g6, I go bishop
It
e3.
started with bishop e4. Let's not be
Bishop
fancy. Let's go
e3.
bishop g6. Bishop
Yeah,
e3.
and
Okay.
I'm just asking, are you going to castle king side, queen side? You're not
no
castling.
castle.
you will
Stay center.
Stay center.
You will really like the suggestion here, by the way.
Ooh.
It says, give me them pawns.
Pawn grubbers.
Give me them pawns.
Wow.
No, that's a computer suggestion. Humans don't
Yeah.
think like that,
Yeah.
unless
No, this is
unless you're real pawn
Yeah,
grabber.
pawn grabber. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so
no, this is very
grabbing
sharp.
the
It's still
pawns, huh?
still very playable, but very, very sharp. What I want to do is, this is
Please.
a very exciting position, but I think until such time that Leinier makes a choice,
Right.
we can spend a lot of time guessing.
Sure.
But there's like 10 moves here you can play very,
All very
easily.
reasonable.
And there is breaking news in the
Let's do
absolute
it.
top game of the round.
Let's do it.
Because after knight bd7, we were expecting a kind of a quiet game. Fabi
Between
did play knight
Fabi.
g3, and we thought, okay, knight c5, bishop takes c4. Yes,
go.
you do need sidestep the move b2, b4. You'll play bishop c7. Not very much is happening.
Right.
Instead of all that, Wesley played b7, b6 here. Trying, I guess,
An
once again to
echo
recapture with b takes c5, trying
you
to get
showed us.
those positions. Yeah. Perhaps he remembered that he has to play b6 somewhere, because as I mentioned, the engine does suggest doing this and then taking with the pawn.
And bishop a6 and gambiting the
Yes,
pawn,
yeah,
which you showed
yes.
us. Yeah, very nice.
But after knight bd7 and b6, Fabi took some time to kind of adjust to the new landscape and played queen f3. And this
That looks
is now a
very
problem. At first, I couldn't really understand what was going on. Obviously, the rook is hanging, but why are we...
Bishop A6?
Bishop
Bishop
A6?
A6? No, Bishop A6, I kind of realized. This is a very thematic thing that
You
does...
trapped your own bishop.
That's brilliant.
That does happen
After
quite a
takes
bit.
B3,
Yeah,
bishop
C takes
Because I was thinking knight e5 was such a fabulous threat. Oh my word!
And this is still somewhat playable because the white pieces are vulnerable. There's knight e5 jumps, knight c5 jumps, and so on. But the engine very calmly goes bishop b7, c6, and says, yes, after knight c5, I still have to protect some of my pieces. Goes queen e2. There's b3, b2. There's knight d3 check. But the important thing about this position,
You're a piece down.
You're a piece down. Yeah, just let me castle, and the game will finish. So this is not great.
Wow.
My question was, why is rook b8 not great? Because what's the problem?
Right.
But there's a very concrete issue here. C6. Seemingly we're just blundering stuff.
Of course.
No, we're not.
What? Queen.
We just go queen f4,
Don't.
Yeah.
using the fact that this is a problem.
I take
really,
on C6.
only move you can make is knight takes c6. And now,
b4 again.
hello.
That is
And
remarkable.
there's no way.
Hello?
There is a way out. You can go queen c7.
No, it does this as the best
And then
way.
b5, right.
But it costs you a healthy pawn.
But you can save it by moving the queen, right?
I don't think so.
And then going b5. So
It's
you
this-
go bishop
Well,
bishop
from the-
d7 maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, then I'm still costing
No,
me b5.
yeah, it's going to cost you that pawn. There is just no way to save it.
I
So
could-
so you get some position like this in which, yes, the king is still on e1, but the engine goes like rook d1 first. You have to castle. We play bishop c3. We play bishop b2.
This isn't the comfy
and we,
compensation.
and we're now one move away from castling and saying,
No.
okay, I have more pawns.
Yeah, I
than
don't
you
like
do,
this as
sir.
the compensation. Quick question for you. Queen f4 in that variation. And I could take on c3 and then take on c6.
Yeah, but the engine actually thinks this is much
This is worse?
Yeah, this is equal material, but you're kind of completely lost because,
Two bishops?
yeah, those bishops
That's
are
it?
just so strong.
That's it? Just the two bishops and it was so
You know, also the
strong.
king is still in the center. If you castle, your pieces start falling off.
Really?
b7? What am I
Bishop
missing?
b7.
Yeah, there's also
bishop
also
b4.
this.
Oh no.
No, everything just starts collapsing. It very, very seriously prefers
Okay.
the position
The
of full
pawn
pawn down
sacrifice.
to the position with equal material, but those bishops, yeah. Here it basically says game is over. It's like minus
So-
2.5.
Let's go
Wow.
back to queen f3.
Yeah.
So rook b8,
Yeah.
which is the most natural move on
Yeah,
the board,
it is,
is
yeah.
ruled out.
C6.
But then
Well,
You don't have choices.
I don't have
it's those
choice,
two.
yeah.
It's those two. You choose between
bishop
being
a6 is b4.
yeah. You either you believe that you will find some tactical justification for being a piece down, like you hope that after castles the fact that there is still some jumps available will be enough, and I'm sure you have a sneaking suspicion it's not, but like your choices aren't great, or you go rook b8 and. Here you go for something like this. There's still some counterplay because black can play 7, a5, start digging at the white queen side. I don't think this is like completely lost and you lose every single time you get this, but it's not fun.
Wow. Queen f3. Are we in novel? Where did
yeah,
the
we're in
novelty?
novel territory because
when did it happen, Joe?
well, it happened after Wesley's b6.
b7, b6.
Yeah,
was the
everyone
novel-
before then had gone knight takes c5
Very legit
or
looking move.
knight to d5.
Or knight to d5. Knight takes c5, knight to d5 had been previously played, essayed, and b7, b6 looks like a promising idea if I can play bishop a6. As
Exactly, yeah,
But queen
you
f3
cannot.
might have upended Wesley's approach. Queen f3. Engine approved, queen f3?
Yes.
Very much
Yes,
so.
very much so. My feeling is that maybe he mixed up the move orders. My feeling is he's seen this position before,
That
and he remembered
Wesley
Wesley, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
He remembered that there are some lines where you're supposed to play b7, b6,
Right.
and to take on c5, not with the piece, but with the b6 pawn.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just mixed up where, and
Yeah.
is now in a very tough spot by move 9, which is very unexpected. Move
Right.
10, technically.
And this is where in the UK we say a little knowledge is dangerous, right?
Right.
Because if he hadn't known about b6, I'm pretty sure knight
You
takes
play
c5,
knight takes c5.
and the game continues. It's a normal position.
I think this is the great, terrifying nightmare of modern grandmasters. Like you said, that little bit of a knowledge, or more specifically, saliently, they mix up a line, and then suddenly, bang, splat. They're in territory where game is over. They don't even have to play anymore. Queen F3 might end the game after B6.
Well, and the game is maybe a little bit of an overstatement, but yeah, it's and it's extremely missable as well. Like the unfortunate thing for Wesley, and you have to say that C6 was also pretty strong, because if you can't force white to go C takes B6, which you would have done if you played it with knight on B8. One thing I wanted to answer for myself: why isn't Queen F3 strong here?
Yeah.
Apparently, you can play Queen E7.
Trap the queen.
And if Queen takes A8, the Queen gets trapped on A7, and Black is doing extremely well. So the point is, even C5, C6 here, shockingly, with knight F5, F4, would also give white a very pleasant edge, because if you take on C6, once again, you really don't want this pawn here. You want to be able to retreat
You play bishop C7.
Yeah, so once again, you either take on C3 and play a really poor position without the bishops, or the engine suggests something like this, where once again you've lost this pawn to tactical details. Although this compensation, frankly, looks, of course, much better, because the pawn on E3.
Of course,
F2, F4. F2, F4 is not particularly a good move here.
Yeah.
But yeah, even C6 was strong, but Queen F3, I feel, is just very, very missable, because much of your counterplay here as Black is very much dependent on being able to play knight E5, and white just made a move which steps straight into it. And yet it turns out that move by move everything works out. So yeah, kind of a sequence of unfortunate events, as the book series goes, for Wesley here.
For me, I mean, I'm a pattern guy. I've seen thousands and tens of thousands of patterns. Well, that might be an exaggeration, but certainly thousands. Bishop A6, B2, B4 is a very unusual pattern for me. I mean, that you play a move like Bishop A6, you're defending the pawn on C4, and you're thinking, how marvelous, and then B4.
Exactly, and the brain tends to just simply go, okay, Queen F3, Bishop A6, done.
Right, stop.
Good solution there.
Knight E5.
And then it's only when it appears on the board you realize that Queen F3, Bishop A6, B4.
Wow.
And now, Wesley has to be incredibly pragmatic and choose which one of those moves is the lesser evil. I personally would sacrifice the pawn.
Yeah.
I would play Rook B8 and go that direction, because somehow if you gamble the piece, then when it goes wrong, it will really go wrong.
Yeah, true that. Let's just take another gander at that piece sacrifice, though. Bishop A6, B4, we en passant, so that's one pawn in our pocket. The bishop goes off the board. Now, the desirable knight takes C5. What happens here, Jovi?
Guess you throw in a check.
Throw in a check, and unfortunately for us, our king has to remain in the center, king E7. At least the good news for the moment is you can't just castle and bring your king to safety, as this guy's saying. So I've got two pawns, and I don't know. B2 is not that really disruptive.
Yeah, Rook D1 is very strong.
Just simply
Yeah,
Rook
Rook
D1?
D1.
Okay, so you're preparing to castle, but how? Okay, kill me. I'll go check.
Can we not keep that one up our sleeves and maybe
Sorry, what would you
kick
like,
the
Jovi?
bishop back?
A6 first?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Okay, A7, A6, let's have a look.
Yeah, A7, A6 allows knight C4, but even bishop E2 is very strong, is the problem, I think, for Black.
C4?
Using the X-ray along the G file appears to work out for white, because the queen on G8 is vulnerable.
It's so bad. It's so tragic. Our pawn's not already on B2. Then we wouldn't be fretting ourselves over.
And knight D3.
So knight D3 check.
Knight D3 just king E2, because he also...
Oh, just king E2.
Yeah,
sorry.
There's also queen B7 check coming in, so...
Yeah.
Oh, that's nasty. Queen. Okay, and again, isn't this B pawn offering me some solace? Queen C7.
I would have thought so, but it's
Rook
not enough. It's
D8.
Yeah. I can see the argument
It's still
for
on
this.
the board.
I can see the argument for this, but it just doesn't seem to
I
be
can get in the A6,
satisfying.
B5 on a good day.
So Queen C7. Let's say we castle Rook H D8.
Right.
Yeah.
It
goes E3, E4 specifically to protect the knight on C3 here, to stop the threat of Rook takes D2 and Bishop takes C3.
Also some
and then it
X-rays.
stabilizes. Yeah, it makes some really awkward moves. Honestly, the more I look at how the engine plays this with white, the more I think I would probably choose this, because it really doesn't look that clear to me from a purely human perspective. Like it goes knight b1, here says I'm completely winning. Wouldn't have been at all obvious.
No, but the knight is under fire though in that.
No,
position.
I understand
True,
why
rook
it was
takes
hanging.
d2.
What I mean is, like in
It's not the
my
first,
mind,
yeah.
I forced the knight back. The pawn is still alive. I can put it on b2.
Right.
I have a very, very nice knight on c5, which cannot be challenged by anything. The king on e7 is now safe. I would feel that, maybe I'm making progress.
Right.
I can see on my screen that I'm making none whatsoever. But if I didn't have that, I would think if we look at this position and then we look at this position. Black has we brought the rook into play. We put the queen on a very nice central square. We pushed the knight back. We are getting somewhere. But like bishop f4 is a threat. Bishop takes a5 is annoying. If you take on d2, your pawn is hanging and the knight is coming to c4. It just doesn't work out move by move by move. But that's because, once again, I'm being held.
Yes.
Wow.
But if I look at this from the black side, like if I start thinking here, and I'm choosing where to go for, by this point I think I've realized that
I'm in trouble.
I made a misstep and I'm now in trouble.
Right.
And I'm choosing where to go for. And I have a choice between, where was I?
Blundering? Well,
this position.
being a pawn down.
This position where I feel like it's probably important to stop knight e5, so let's say bishop c3, and after castles, white just starts developing. Okay, this was apparently a huge mistake because a7, a6 is now strong. So let's include, as we were including, rook d1, castles, bishop c3, queen somewhere, and let's say bishop e2. And I look at this and I think I have like maybe a 2-move window here with black to attack something. If I don't attack something immediately, I'm going to slowly but very, very surely lose this game because it's just 2 against 1, no particular compensation. You don't save them very often. And then I have the option of going for this mess, after rook d1. And at least for me, the instinct is always go for the one that's messier.
Right.
For the one that's less orderly, for the one that creates
But you've got to know
more
your
unusual
opponent,
problems,
right? And Fabi is Mr. Calculation guy.
Yeah.
He can get this type of position and calculate his way out of trouble.
True.
Whereas in the other game, it's a lot more fluid, right? It's to do with piece activity and coming up with plans, and just never underestimate the ability of a human to go wrong.
But for me, Jovi, this is absolutely fantastic. This is the type of game I was hoping for. The two players, first and second place, if you will. Wesley, his road ahead, he's at +2. He's playing, Mr. 2023, Fabi, and he'll have a bye in the very last round.
Yes, so he'll play Nepomniachtchi, and then he would have played Jan-Krzysztof Duda had Jan-Krzysztof Duda hadn't withdrawn, but he has, and so therefore it's a bye.
Exactly. So, I mean, for Wesley, if he could get through this game, it would just be, roses, if you will. But for the moment, he appears to be in trouble. This move, Queen F3, is definitely forced Wesley. 30-minute thing? It's been a good thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, and you can just see him there in the camera, just shaking his head, looking very uncomfortable. The penny has dropped. He's gotten his move order wrong. Is in big trouble.
And let's just remind ourselves, this is so rare for us. Move 10. I mean, my goodness, we've been looking at games where, for example, the Firouzja game,
side by side.
there are 20 moves in.
Those two games side by side look very, very funny.
Right, one tabby is 25 moves long, the other only after 10 moves. Wesley in trouble.
And while Wesley is still mulling it over, let's maybe switch over for a second to the Nepomniachtchi Firouzja game.
Sure.
Because Jan did something we were not talking about as much.
We were looking at G3.
Yeah, in the position after rook takes h2, he says, we're not here to wait, we're not here to try to preserve material, and just goes e4 straight away.
Okay.
And Firouzja finally started thinking he is now below the starting time. He spent about 25 minutes, I want to say, in this position.
Because he was at 133.
And when he takes e4, which is fine, but now via some move order, they're very likely to end up here.
Okay.
And this seems like we're entering some kind of an only move territory because, once again, I'm not altogether convinced by this, but seems like g6, g5 immediately, without the inclusion of rook c8, for instance, which is It looks very, very logical. Like why are we allowing bishop c7 check when we can stop it? Both are probably still drawn, but after g5, bishop c7, king c8, it seems to be okay. And after rook c8, followed by very quiet rook b6, g5, bishop g3. Rook b7 is a very, very annoying threat. And here, I feel like we can actually call the move e6e5 the only move.
Wow.
With the intention very specifically of following it up with bishop f6, because you need to get pieces off the board, even at the cost of this much material.
Yeah.
I think very importantly, white cannot take on f6 here because rook b8 and the double pins could collect everything. But yeah, so if you play rook c8, they haven't actually arrived here yet, d4, and I'm guessing Jan is not at the board. Oh no, he is. So he is. D takes e4 is not the machine first suggestion. So Jan is probably trying to remember what his intentions are supposed to be here. And once again, to remind our viewers, this is move 27.
Right.
They have maybe finally started playing a game of chess.
Right. They stopped.
Yeah. Until that moment, they were very clearly both repeating what the file says. Fa4 chosen, but we assume it's the same position because having gotten here, how do you not take on g2?
Indeed. So once again, rook takes g2, bishop
rook takes
f4.
g2, bishop f4, and we get here. And g5 is cleaner, but rook c8 might still save the game. But there you really do enter the territory where you will have to start playing extremely precisely. My guess is if we do this here, this is the difference. This is the major difference. You just cannot put the bishop on g3 at all because you instantly lose the game to the pin along the b file. So you have to give this check, and the way to play for a win here is exactly what you'd expect, because white gave up a pawn to do something in the center.
Right.
And that something has to be d5, d6, d7, and so on. And after he takes d5, he takes d5. Seems like king b7 is strictly the only move. Everything else is trouble.
But in that, getting out of the discovered check. What's remarkable for me is this king on b2 has been on this kind of open highway, second rank, b file.
But it's untouchable.
And nobody's bothered the king.
Persona non grata.
And you've got a passer up, right up the center to d5.
And it actually becomes kind of relevant because currently d5, d6,
bishop f6.
even bishop takes d6 is playable because once again, rook takes e2 to follow. And maybe white makes a draw, maybe white doesn't, but yeah, well, white is no longer really playing for a win here. This much we know.
So no d6.
Yeah, so no d6. And if you drop the rook back, the king starts getting chased around. After starting with bishop f6 check, and you can go forward, and then black goes rook a1, rook b1 check, and starts creating issues. Or you can go actually c1, d2, which is a reasonably safe nest for the king, but the rook becomes very active.
Wow.
And you have to kind of balance all of these things. And also, black very much would like to continue getting pieces off the board. So after something like bishop d3, it very much goes rook b2 and says, I will now hold this because once the rooks disappear, the black king is never getting mated, and the margins become a lot wider for the draw.
But the d pawn is terrifying.
It is very strong. Yeah, you can play something like d6 here, rook c2, bishop c2. There's also this threat.
Bishop e4 is
But yeah, it says. And this is actually a construction I know from a different side from the Grunfeld. d6 with the bishop on e7. Very often, if you can actually kind of attach yourself to the bishop on e7, in particular, if you push the f pawn, play king f7, it stops the pawn from moving forward. And here we have the same construction. This looks very solid, but in terms of actually queening the pawn, you'd much rather not. You'd much rather
but
not
the bishop
have it there.
can move, right?
But then we'll play king c6 and start attacking it. Like if you play bishop a5 here, yeah, like king 6 might be. I blundered the rook here because of bishop f5 check, but in
understood what the concept is.
Conceptually, this would have been a good move. It's a bad move, but for very specific reasons.
Gotcha. Peter, thank you so much. And I think we've come to that point in our show where we start to think about the break at least. And before we do that, of course, we have to look at check-in with our friends at Q Boutique and see what's on tap. Well, guess what, everyone?
What's on offer today?
Indeed. Gear up in the newest apparel from the St. Louis Chess Club with this officially branded puffy vest. Features the Chess Club signature logo across the left breast pocket, 100% polyester. Available at QBoutiqueSTL.com for all your chess shopping needs. I believe the holiday discounts are still in I mean, this 20%, this is ridiculous. They don't give me to. I walk in, they say, full price, man. I mean, I get
now
premium
is
service.
Time, Yasser. You can go to qboutiquestl.com and do your holiday shopping.
Absolutely.
And it ends today.
And
Last chance.
This is it. This is it. The last chance saloon here, everybody. Do your shopping.
Absolutely.
We'll
And
take a
it's
break.
time for us to take a break. But we have a nice feature for you lined up. Earlier on, Anish spoke to Anastasia. So enjoy that, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Anish, welcome to St. Louis. Welcome to Grand Chess Tour. Part of your persona is actually in social media, and you have really individual and humorous tweets. And what do you think? I mean, what impact social media have on chess players' life these days? And is it something what you like to do, or you're trying to build in a way self-brand through social media?
Yeah, I no longer like tweeting for a very long time, but I've sort of built some sort of a small chess brand online, and I keep the fire burning there. And I think it's been very helpful for me. I've gotten a lot of more opportunities because of that, and a lot of fans and a lot of support. So, I'm not like Hikaru who is really going all out on streaming. I wasn't able to do that, but I still try to have some online presence. But last year I've been focusing much more on the on the classical chess, on the World Championship cycle, and it's been very exciting for me. So I hope to finish this season on a high.
Yeah, and speaking about the World Championship cycle and in general what's happening on the top, I know you always have an opinion. So can you just, let's say, speak a little bit about what's happening right now last year with Magnus, who withdrew from the cycle, with Ding, who actually been absent for a long time, with Hikaru, who still actually keeps playing quite well. So what's happening right now? What are the new trends, let's say?
No, as you mentioned, definitely very exciting times in a sense. I mean, you've got Magnus, who is sort of trying to not retire, but at the same time, he's withdrawn from certain things like the classical World Championship cycle, and also he's choosing his events in a different way than usual. And of course, the fact that Ding, after his World Championship title, he wasn't playing much. That's also something unusual. And of course, that Hikaru is at the very top after all these years, because he's been there for many years. And it's only after he sort of stopped playing professionally, as he says it, that that his reason to so this high. Although, of course, Hikaru, he had his peaks as well before. I think he won Kansai tournament. He was 2,800 at a given moment. But still, he sort of is experiencing a second peak right now, and that's quite remarkable. And we, of course, have also a lot of youngsters that are up and coming. But it isn't as easy as you would expect. And many of the youngsters, they have risen, but then they've sort of fallen back a bit. As you could see with, let's say, Alireza, with his rating, it went all the way to 2,800, then dropped a bit. And you also have player like Gukesh or Abdusatorov. They've sort of went very quickly, and Gukesh entered the top 10 even. Abdusatorov also went very high, but then at some point they weren't able to keep up the momentum, because of course it's really hard to stay at the top. So for a while they dropped the rating a little bit back, but I guess they will keep moving forward, but more in 2 steps forwards, 1 step back kind of style. So yeah, very exciting times, and still the players of Fabiano's generation are doing very well. Fabi himself and Wesley, occasionally Maxime slamming the door also very loudly in certain events. So I think a good time to be a chess fan, and also the World Championship cycle is looking very exciting. So I'm quite curious to see. Also, you got the online chess movement thing going. So definitely a special time to be a chess fan.
Where do you see yourself in this circuit?
I'm a social media influencer, doing my thing. No, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I find playing chess very rewarding and very challenging as well. And to an extent, the fact that I'm not as great as let's say Carlsen or some other players, like it makes it more fun for me to try, because things don't come easy for me, and when I do have a good result, I really enjoy it thoroughly. It's when it's so hard for you to achieve, then whenever something good happens, I think the reward that you feel is also higher. I have some experience playing like much weaker tournaments. Sometimes, let's say I played the championships when the lineup was not very strong. And then there's a different kind of event because you are under a lot of pressure. You have to win. Usually you do win, but of course it doesn't feel as rewarding. So there's not much to gain. So in my chess career, it's very different because I have a lot to gain always. I am not number one or anything like that. So there's a lot of challenges for me, and whenever I achieve something local, I'm just really, really happy.
Yeah, I think it's a really good moment to finish this interview, and wish you good luck in the tournament.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Women's Grandmaster Begim Tokhorjanova. I will be creating content for Grand Chess Tour. Follow us on social media and catch more behind-the-scenes content.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today.
The World Chess Hall of Fame, located in the heart of St. Louis's historic Central West End. Want to know why chess has intrigued people around the world for nearly 1,500 years? Stop by and learn about the impact of chess from our 3 floors showcasing the art, culture, and history of the game. The World Chess Hall of Fame has something for everyone to enjoy. For more information on current exhibits, please visit worldchesshof.org. St. Louis, the chess capital of the United States. It also plays host to an award-winning shop dedicated to chess merchandise, all-occasion gifts, and plenty more. At Q Boutique, you can shop both in-store and online. From quirky greeting cards to luxury chess sets, there is something for everyone at Q Boutique. Enjoy a shopping experience like no other. Make sure to check out QBoutiqueSTL.com for a wide variety of gifts for everyone to enjoy.
The St. Louis Chess Club Scholastic Program brings the educational value of chess to kids in schools across the St. Louis area. Active in over 100 schools throughout the St. Louis City and County, the St. Louis Chess Club has been able to reach over 85,000 students in both in-school and after-school programs. We view chess as a valuable educational tool. Learn more about our scholastic programming by visiting stlouischessclub.org/education.
Hello, I'm Women's Grandmaster Begim Tokhorjanova. I will take you behind the scenes of the Grand Chess Tour. Follow us on social media and don't miss out on players' interviews and more content from the playing hall.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States and is among the best in the world. Thanks to co-founders Dr. Jeannie Cairn Sinquefield and Rex Sinquefield, the St. Louis Chess Club is a non-profit organization committed to promoting the game of chess locally and internationally. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area, promoting cognitive development, critical thinking, concentration, and analytical skills. The St. Louis Chess Club welcomes chess lovers of any age and skill level to come and enjoy the game of chess. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships and the American Cup, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players, including the prestigious Sinquefield Cup, Cairns Cup, and many more. All tournaments can be streamed via our YouTube and Twitch channels that also include over 2,000 chess lectures for anyone to enjoy. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, merchandise discounts, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today.
Hello, we are back with our coverage of round 7 of the Sinquefield Cup, and we have two very special guests in the studio. We have Natalie McKay and Erin Gooch, who are here to tell us all about the project Teddy and Friends Inclusive Playground. And first of all, pleasure to have you here. And how have you been enjoying the chess?
Very honored to be here. Oh, amazing. Thank you.
The chess world is pretty special when people who don't have a lot of familiarity suddenly come into a studio and go, oh my gosh, chess is big stuff.
Worldwide. Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, first of all, tell us how Teddy and Friends Inclusive Playground came about.
Yeah, Erin will tell you a little bit about that.
Right. So I'm Teddy's mom. That's pretty much my only title these days. And Teddy he will be 8 in January. He has a form of achondroplasia, which is the most common form of dwarfism. So growing up, it was very hard for me to take him to a community playground just because they are not, some of them were adaptable, but not inclusive enough. And so it was very hard. Until one day last July, where I met some of my colleagues, friends who have kids with dwarfism as well in the community. We met out at Natalie's first playground called Zachary's near Lake St. Louis, and the day was perfect. We were there for more than 2 hours, which is very hard, and so after we get in the car, and Teddy's like, "Mom, that was the best play date ever," and I'm like, "It really was, but tell me more. Why?" He goes, "I could do everything, and you didn't have to help me. Because normally I have to be, lifting him up on the playground, helping with ladders." And he goes, "And you were able to talk with other moms. And because normally I'm not able to engage with the other moms on our playgrounds in our community just because I'm helping Teddy so much." Yeah. So I'm like, "All right, buddy, I get it. So next day I researched and I found that it was a playground done by Unlimited Play, and Natalie is locally, so I gave her a call. And it kind of organically started from there. She's like, "Where would you like to build?" And I'm like, "Well, I live in the Town and Country, DePere, West County area, and there's currently not a playground within 20 miles plus around like yours, and so let's start from there."
How does chess connect?
So how does chess connect? So the theme of the playground, fast track a little bit, the theme of the playground is game board. So Teddy and I got on a Zoom call with Little Tikes Commercial, who creates the playground. Okay. And they're like, "What theme do you want?" And I'm like, "Oh goodness, I never thought about that. Like, what does Teddy like to do?" And I'm like, "Well, he likes golf, tennis, chess is a big one, and board games. Those are his 4 things." And they're like, "Board games will be fun," and chess could be related to it. So it's kind of how it started. And so Teddy is big in, he's only in 2nd grade, so he's been playing since kindergarten. But he plays in local chess tournaments. And so I'm like, well, this will be perfect. We first started out, when we reached out to St. Louis Chess Club, is our splash pad will be chess themed.
What's a splash pad?
A water feature that kids can run in and out of fountains.
Oh,
if you can think of
great.
it that way.
Okay, that's
and the flooring,
pad.
the structure will be in a chessboard.
Ah.
Fast forward after some conversations with members from the St. Louis Chess Club.
Okay.
It will be turned into, after in the fall, it will be turned into a big, large, like they do down in Central West End, an outdoor chess board.
Right, gotcha.
With life-size pieces to use for our
the community to use for our lessons.
So that's your unlimited playground. That's where the whole concept of the unlimited play.
Unlimited Play is the nonprofit I started, and we build playgrounds like this across the nation now.
And can you tell us what these playgrounds look
Like
like?
here we've got some
Sure, this
B-roll.
is the design for Teddy and Friends. So when you watch, there's ramping all the way from the bottom to the top to the tallest slide. My son was born with a disability and uses a wheelchair. So you can navigate this entire playground with a mobility device of any kind. Lots of features for kids with autism to play safely and enjoy what they're doing. That Connect 4 piece has holes that are closer together for people like Teddy who just need smaller spaces there. And we design it to make sure every single child is challenged at their own level. So it's not just for kids with disabilities, but look at all the climbing
It's so
activities.
beautiful. It's so colorful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
So much thought.
I
Wow.
love the themes and how thoughtful this is and how this can certainly improve the confidence of all the young children.
And with the chess theme, you've got a chessboard somewhere in one of those water park area kind of splash pads.
We do.
Wow.
Yes.
This is fun. How many
there's a
parks
picture
like this are there around the world? Around the United States, pardon me? were saying?
Unlimited Play is built almost 100, and we probably have another 20 under design right now.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So
How do people support your effort?
Supporting Teddy's here locally would be fabulous. So we, of course, are raising money. We've raised, gosh, the budget's $3.2 million, and we have $1 million left to go. We have a gentleman who's going to match $400,000 of that.
Right.
So that can help us in-kind labor, concrete, site work. And then for Unlimited Play, you can find us on our website.
what is your website?
Unlimitedplay.org. And a lot of communities need playgrounds just like this. So reach out and let us know.
And when do you hope to have the Teddy's playground finished?
That is such a good question. The honest answer.
If it was up to me, it'd be tomorrow.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I like that better. Yesterday.
Right.
You can
Right now, we have enough money to put the equipment on order. So we'll put it on order, and then we're raising funds, that $1 million that is going to do all of the infrastructure and site work. As soon as we have that, we
non-fun
hope
stuff
to
that's
open
needed.
in the fall. But it takes viewers and people like you guys to make sure this happens.
Wonderful.
Ah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wow.
What a project.
I am inspired. I think that's really, really beautiful what you've done.
What I've learned, there was one gentleman I was talking to about chess, and his child has autism, and he said, Natalie, my son, this is his international language, right? It's how he communicates. And it's how I feel about playgrounds. Play is that international language, right? That kids can understand and learn to play together.
Yeah. I can just see, Aaron, also like Teddy comes and he sees his park and the smile.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's worth all of it right there, right?
For him just to do things independently, especially for kids with any limitation. Just to be able to play independently without a parent or an aid is huge for them. It gives them a lot of confidence.
Brilliant.
One of the reasons too why he also loves chess is something that he can do. Honestly, independently is a big one for him.
Exactly.
So.
Challenge and win. Woo-hoo.
Oh yes, he loves it.
Lovely. Thank you both for coming on. It was really, really nice.
It's an honor.
And
to meet you
great
both.
success with the project. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And for Teddy as well.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter,
Thank you very much.
tell us what's going on in the standings at the moment as we resume
There
our
we have
coverage.
it. There might be a lot of shakeups because the positions do indicate we will not have these standings for very long. But for now, Wesley is leading the tournament on 4 out of 6. Fabiano and Leinier are the closest pursuers on 3 out of 5. And Alireza Firouzja is currently at the bottom there on 2 out of 6, but also potentially some movement for him. I wanted to just join my voice to thank Natalie and Aaron for the inspiring work that they do. I listened to it and was very, very moved by everything that's being done. It's fantastic. And these are the pairings that we're watching. The game up top there is, I wanted to say heating up, but honestly not really. It seems settled. by move 13, which is something you pretty much never say about games between such strong players. We'll get to that in a moment. Levon Aronian against Anish Giri is quite balanced. Nepomniachtchi Firouzja is a fantastic theoretical battle there, and Dominguez Rapport is nicely brewing up.
And, well, now that you've told us that the two top players are facing off, things are settled. It was a 30-minute thing?
Yeah, Wesley clearly missed Queen f3, and I think it shook him more than we would have expected, because the decision he's taken, and I understand not wanting to be material down, but he is a strong enough player to know that he is in dire straits if he does what he's done. So I'm very surprised by this choice. It just doesn't look right.
He could have sacrificed a pawn. And
do you think it's the tournament situation as well? Like Wesley, he's very pragmatic, risk averse.
Yes.
And so he just decided, okay, let me just go into a position where it's equal material, but not fully assessing the real consequences.
Well, what can I say? Sure, nobody likes being material down, but for Wesley especially, he's just played the move b5, and I had gotten here earlier, and I said, well, come on, like, how bad is this? And you had pointed out to me that castles...
But we do have the knowledge of the evaluation bar and the machine, and the machine is screaming at us that this is terrible for black.
Yeah, and b5, perhaps this explains why Wesley has gone for this, because if this worked, if white needed to actually retreat, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. And just to illustrate why it's so important to include b5, if you castle here, once again, would have been kind of playable if not for the fact that bishop b5, followed by bishop takes e6, followed by bishop b4 takes f8, just collects a full exchange for nothing whatsoever. So if b5 forced white to go back, maybe you could play. But the problem is bishop takes f6. Fabi still needs to find it, but I think it's findable. If you take with the pawn, knight e4 wins on the spot, because this is just a mating attack that plays itself. Yeah, and we can show exactly why we've sacrificed the piece here. This is a very picturesque position. So you absolutely have to take with the queen. Now the queen comes into d6. The entirety of your structure is now hanging. You have to play 6e5, because here you will lose the rook on b8 with checks very, very quickly. The queen just returns and takes the rook. So you have to play e5, and here you have to find bishop takes f7. Other moves also win, but this is the simplest. Queen f7, queen c6 is lost, and after king takes f7, queen c7. Choices are very ugly. You can play queen e7, queen takes c6.
No. We're going to run with the king.
Where?
You're going to run, but you're not going to hide.
Where, though?
Where?
Yeah.
Where? The question is where. If you go back or forward, honestly, you get hit by rook d6. The knight on c6 falls either way. And in this position, yes, the king is still in the center, but the moment white castles, white has a pawn up, white has the safer king, white has the better minor piece with the knight coming to e4. It's just a dead lost position. You can't really describe it in any other way. So Fabi still needs to find this. I mean, other options are available. You can, for instance, play queen f4, g5, attack g7, attack
also
b5.
Also attractive.
Only real move here is e6, e5. But you're still in so much trouble after one precise calculation. You need to see that in the end of this variation. You have rook d6 attacking both knights. And once again, white is winning. And even if you find none of these things and go, I don't know, bishop d3. Okay, here maybe it's somewhat playable. It's still bad because you don't get to actually win this bishop comfortably. This is hanging, and this battery will continue attacking h7. You're still in trouble, but this is an improvement. If the bishop drops back towards a2, now you can castle. And you're worse, but you're alive. You're almost ready to play 6e5. And this is the move that black wants to make in pretty much every single position, blunting the bishop on c3. So maybe Wesley misunderstood when he was choosing to play rook b8 and then to go into this, just how tactically bad this is. Maybe he thought he will force the bishop to retreat. And then it's, quote-unquote playable. It's not great either way, but it's not as horrible.
I saw the line bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen d6, e5, knight e4, and I was going to give it a rest right there.
Knight e4 is very strong.
But,
even
Bishop
stronger.
F7 is just.
But the thing is, that I
killer.
would never allow the queen into d6. You know, you're asking for trouble,
But
right?
G takes F6
Yeah.
walked into Knight e4, Jovi.
Yeah, I understand that.
And that was getting mated on H6.
And I was just
very
wondering
nice.
whether there's any like F5s. I mean,
No, but once again,
B5 is
queen
hanging.
h6.
you're an attacking. You're an attacking player. Like you, we haven't actually sacrificed anything
On the
for this.
contrary, you're about to pick up a pawn.
We're giving mate here, and we're picking up material in the process. This
No,
is just.
I understand. Yeah, no, I just wanted to just to see how bad it was.
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad, yeah.
I mean, it was so bad that during our break, Peter was cheering because he was thinking that this will be the shortest decisive game, and his name would no longer be in the record books.
But the common theme still continues very strong. Yeah, it's going to be Wesley either way. If he actually takes my crown,
yes,
as the shortest loss of all the Sinquefield Cups, he will still be on all three records.
He will be the longest, the shortest,
the shortest, and the shortest victory, just on the wrong side of it.
But he was also on the wrong side of the longest game as well.
Right. So he's got something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Winning the longest game of the Sinquefield Cup.
Okay, so I think we're in survival mode here.
A disaster.
So is there no way to survive this?
After Bishop F6, no, you have to play some position like this, and
No,
I'm pretty sure.
can't touch
I'm pretty
this
sure
thing.
my record is going to stay safe because he will play it for 20 moves.
Yeah.
But the result, I don't think, will ever really be in doubt here. If you move this pawn back, like if you play Rook F8, castles, King G8, and then you magically go E5, F7. Those you sometimes save.
Right.
But with the pawn on E5, with the king as safe as it is, with additional weaknesses that this generates, it's just white needs to lose their mind at some point, not to win.
And what is Fabi's road ahead here as well? Because for Fabi, it's just been one great success after another after another.
Yeah, absolutely. And in his way, first up, it's Wesley So, then it's Anish Giri, and then finally he takes on Richard Rapport.
Which, I mean, seriously,
Also has
Anish
two
and
blacks and
Richie
one white.
are tough opponents, but they're struggling in the tournament. So in a sense, Fabi is playing best opposition he could hope for in those final two games. And the big test today, well, I mean, he's passed it with flying colors after 10 moves. You don't want to say winning position for Fabi, but you do want to say huge advantage, Peter.
Yeah, already by Queen F3 he was much, much better. And I've been looking at other games for now, but yeah, let's return to this for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, describing the position after Queen F3 as winning is a bit premature. Describing this one as winning, I think, is completely fair, as long as he calculates cleanly from here. But another thing that we were discussing on break, Fabi and calculating cleanly are two very closely connected things.
Right.
He's been a very, very strong in that particular aspect of our game for many, many years. So you would generally assume he will find these short tactics and get there.
Yeah.
If you put the move B5 back for a moment, could Wesley have possibly played E5?
Yeah, this is what I want. It's very beautiful, but it's just completely lost. We play Queen F3. Other moves are also strong, but this is the strongest.
Right.
Because we very often, like if we drive this knight away, the bishop comes to B4, you're never castling.
Gotcha.
And the only reason I was slightly interested in this is that I thought maybe we play knight G4 and we get this.
Okay,
which is still which is still lost.
But we take.
Right.
But you can play. But the problem is
You can take with the...
yeah, you can do this. It's stronger than starting with bishop b4 because we also want to lure the bishop to d7.
Okay.
After bishop d7, we go knight f5.
Uh-oh.
And the position just collapses because if you play queen e5 here, you run into bishop takes d4, and here you you discover to your chagrin
geometry is
that no, the pieces are just completely
terrible.
untouchable. Like the engine suggests you have to go for this, but you know what this is.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no doubt here if you get this with black that this is just completely lost.
Right.
So yeah, e5, queen f3. If not for queen f3, if the queen had to go, let's say, to h4 and you had time to castle, this is still extremely unpleasant.
Right.
But it's kind of
You're
playable.
fighting.
You can start thinking, maybe I will leave to see another day, but
No.
queen f3 and then rook takes d4 basically ends the game on the spot.
Wow. And the current position and in the fight for first, Fabi has come out on top. The opening just went in his favor. There was one incredibly topical Tabia game between Nepo and Firouzja. Very, very forcing chess. What happened there, Peter?
I think Alireza, I think he was on maybe an hour and 10 when he played d4 and rook takes g2.
Right.
So he spent an additional maybe 20 minutes. I don't know the exact number, but my guess would be around 20 minutes on the move rook c8, which, as we know, is not as clean as g5. And rook b6 has been played very quickly by Jan. Jan is still on an hour and 10, so Jan is perhaps still navigating things he's seen before in his life. I think for Alireza, we can assume that he is on his own. And this is the position that I was describing, where it feels like maybe you now have to start making only moves. And the only moves, as we've discussed, it's this very strange sequence, which I don't think is so natural. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Luring the bishop to e5 and then successfully trading it because it can no longer retreat because our knight is pinned. So if you move it anywhere, you just instantly lose a lot of material.
Okay, so whilst this game is following our analysis, let's go over to Levon Aronian against Anish Giri.
That was the Petrov defense.
It looks like Levon has started to initiate some repetitions.
But Anish said no.
H5.
At least for now, Anish
Bishop
said no.
G2, H4, Rook D3, Rook C8, Bishop H3, driving the rook away. Bishop G2, and we've caught up with the players. So apparently with the move Rook C8, that could be an implied draw offered. Not that you're expecting that, Peter.
But what I wanted to say is previously the rook came to C8 from D8, not from H8, so this is a new position in the game.
Okay.
Yes, Rook C8 will be a repetition. Not the third one, the second one. But for now, Anish very clearly could have just put it back on D8,
right,
saying I don't mind the draw. But instead he played Rook H8, which suggests that he at least wants to take a look at a new position and see if he has anything stronger than putting it back on the C8 square.
Not surprisingly, the players reached a position that you suggested from a long horizon ago, that white would put his pawn on A5, black would put his king on G7, white would put his bishop on G2. They've achieved all of that, but Levon really hasn't achieved anything spectacular since, Peter.
Not really. I'm a bit surprised because there's been a number of points in this game where I think starting from somewhere around here, but also H5, H4 is, I think, very logical because you probably don't want with white to even think about allowing H takes and then bishop queen takes, knight G4, all of those things.
Right.
So you provoke a somewhat awkward move, rook G3.
Right.
But somewhere around here, I think I would be tempted to finally resolve this.
Like
just to say, yeah, let's just kind of both agree what our structure is on the queen side. Yeah, let's not have any more of this fooling around.
Right.
Allowing b6, b5 seems unattractive, so something like queen b5 is likely, and then we can go like cd4, cd4, and in this position, you can go rook c8, you can also go queen d7 and say, would you like to continue trading? This looks very, very safe. Rook dc8, white can, although honestly, it allows white to continue, but the ways that white needs to play to continue aren't really that threatening, because the engine starts suggesting that we can now play d4, d5 and avoid some trades. But I think from a purely human point of view, it's just a move you pretty much never make, right? Because it kills off your own bishop.
Yeah. I'm not a fan.
And there is a very, very nice blocker on d6. It just doesn't seem attractive.
And what happens if you were to, instead of blocking in the bishop, although it is...
Take the pawn.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's meatloaf. You took the words right out of my mouth. HG.
Interesting, because I was pretty sure c takes d4 was the idea.
And then I wanted to take...
The engine does something truly spectacular. I really love this. It says, I would like to soften your position up a little bit more.
Okay, I say with pleasure, rook takes bishop.
And now I go c takes d4.
See, against c5 takes d4, my intention had been to take the bishop. And then
there's no bishop
to take.
And I think this is why it goes bishop g3, because if we go c takes d4, now knight d6, queen d6, and even a6 first
a6
is even stronger.
Was my intention,
and
just
then we will pick up on d4. So yeah, there is this very, very cute tactic of removing the bishop from the conversation, G3. And whichever way you take, all of your pieces are suddenly hanging. c4 is hanging. You cannot take with the rook because obviously allowing queen takes g3 is not
what we intended.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
seems like they are repeating. So let's go back to watching.
That's bishop takes G. That's a nice variation. For Levon lost yesterday a very tough game against Wesley. So he came back today with the white pieces. A little disheartening here. He didn't get anything.
No, but
spectacular,
this is what
Peter?
happens when you play against Anish and you have either a bombshell idea or perhaps you're prepared to play something completely offbeat just to get a game.
But maybe, Anish lost yesterday as well against Leinier and Dominguez.
Yeah.
He also needs to finish in the top 4 to pick up any points for the FIDE circuit.
Right.
So maybe Levon was thinking, if I play quietly, Anish might be
take
tempted
risks.
to take some risks, yeah.
There may have been an element of the double bluff there by Levon. I like this idea because for Anish, he is currently in the lead for the FIDE circuit.
Okay.
But that is very much threatened by Wesley doing really well.
Okay.
And he is still in the conversation for the rating spot, but he needs Wesley basically to get the FIDE circuit spot for that to be relevant, because I don't think he's catching up necessarily to Wesley as is. So, yeah, a lot of players are watching Wesley very, very carefully right now, trying to figure out where they stand, where Wesley stands. Just briefly, since that game is over, Bishop takes F6 has landed, and Wesley, that's the face of a man who
knows he's in trouble.
Now understands just how bad his situation is.
Bishop takes F6, and as pointed out, it's very, very nice. Line G takes F6, knight to E4. You can take a bishop, but you're not going to like the results of this one. Knight takes. What is this checkmating pattern called, Jovi?
I don't know. I don't think it has a name.
We've got names for everything in chess. I mean,
I
there's
know.
like 29 mating patterns. I didn't know about the 20.
33, 35
what?
actually, yeah.
35. Oh, gosh, they keep growing. So this ought to have its own name.
Queen takes played, of course, GF94 just looks like the game has finished.
Exactly. So in the game, he has taken with the queen.
Yeah, he's taken with the queen. Fabi will play queen d6.
Queen d6.
He will play
No
e5.
brainer, right, to come in with the queen to d6.
Oh, for sure. That's
And-
just begging. First of all, no escapes. Knight's hanging with check. Knight can't move because rook is hanging. You have no time to take the bishop because queen takes and wins a rook. You have to play
time?
e5.
Yeah, he will
Do you
blitz
have
out
time to
e5.
go knight a5?
That's
B8
your
is
rook.
hanging though.
Oh my goodness me.
That's a
No, everything has gone wrong.
Truly, I mean, it's sort of like we've misplaced each and every one of our pieces. So we've been looking at e5.
E5 is absolutely the only move. And now the question is which one Fabi will choose, because he has about 4 moves here which are winning.
all look very good, including bishop takes f7,
think-
maybe the most forcing. And
I think
most
this one is the
concrete.
harshest, but I also like, and we were also showing this for a second and then got distracted by events elsewhere. I think maybe a slightly more human approach here is to play queen c5, b takes c4, and knight e4. And this is also just completely lost. You have to play queen e7, you have to play king f8 here. And, I mean, knight c5, knight d6, even castles, I suspect. No, castle maybe bishop b7. We don't
By the
want
way,
to step
queen
into bishop
d6,
b7.
queen d6, e5 on the board. Sorry, Peter.
Yeah, a move like knight d6 here. Although, honestly, bishop f7 is just stronger. This feels like if you allow black to play h5, g6, king g7, maybe...
You might unwind.
I think bishop f7 is just stronger. The question is how easy it is to see, but once again, we're talking about Fabi. Fabi's been playing well this year, and...
Coming into today, Jovi, Wesley's line score was so impressive. I mean, he was undefeated. Things had just been going his way.
Absolutely.
What else to say?
I mean, he was on +2. Had a great
First.
game against Levon yesterday. Also had a magnificent game against Richard Rapport.
For those of you joining us late, very, very unexpectedly, Wesley got himself into serious trouble on move 10. On move 10, we were questioning what Fabi was doing, playing first 1d4, then playing a Nimzo, then playing a Rubinstein Nimzo, then this whole bishop a5, and Wesley mixed
Yes.
b7, b6 at the wrong time. And he really has that look somebody who just wants to get out of here.
Fabiano has the look of someone who is about to pounce.
Right.
Bishop
Right.
takes f7, I think is child's play for Fabiano. I think he's going to find that one, especially because it's backed up by checks.
By the way, help me out on this one. You're looking at this position for white. Your bishop is hanging, so you're cognizant of that. But you see the move knight e4. And you think to yourself, oh, that's clever. Knight e4, if there's a queen trade, I can recapture with the knight. That's a check. And I win a pawn, and that's all good. Then you see queen c5 and rook d6.
Yeah.
How do you choose?
Well, this is where I'm doing some training. So
Okay.
what I try to do on a daily basis, I try to do 30 tactics per day.
30.
Yes, and the whole reason is I want to go back to basics. So I want to get a position like this.
Okay.
What I want to train on is seeing all the alternatives.
Okay.
So rather than seeing knight e4 and kind of going down that rabbit hole,
Right.
instead I'm going, okay, we have knight e4, we have queen c5, we have bishop takes f7, and then
Right.
I will rank those accordingly.
Okay.
It's just so that I don't miss those basic moves.
Right. So at the end
30
of...
tactics, yeah?
Yeah?
30 tactics.
30
yeah? How
tactics
many
per
didn't?
day. Huh?
How many didn't?
nicely done.
Nicely done there.
Right?
Yeah.
And does it take you an hour, 2 hours? I mean, 30, that sounds like a lot of work.
No, it's not that much. I do it in my spare time, you know.
Just a second. This isn't a 3-minute puzzle that you've just presented.
No.
here.
I mean, I just go on to an online site and I just do those tactics, as many as I can. And the whole point is I want to develop a system because I've been very disheartened by my results lately. So I figured the best thing I can do is just simply develop a system.
Okay.
And then just focus on improving that system on a daily basis rather than focusing on results.
Okay. So I break down this position, I look at this position, and I say, okay, Yaz, you're going to have to do some calculating because unfortunately, it's not a narrow path and there's some very attractive moves. I find the move knight e4 attractive. I really find the move queen c5 attractive because rook d6 and
Knight e4 d6 as well, yeah.
And knight e4 d6, and I find bishop takes f7 check also very attractive. So I've got 3 really, really good games, 3 really good choices, I mean to say, and then I have to decide which gives me the biggest advantage of all 3, and I have to go through one by one.
Yeah, well, we are going to keep an eye on this and maybe leave you with a cliffhanger because we're going to go to Anastasia, who is there with Anish Giri.
Thank you, Jovi. Yes, we're here with Anish. Anish, the game finished in a draw, but first of all, how do you assess your tournament situation and the overall situation? Are you thinking about it and calculating all possible lines?
Yeah, I think instead of calculating the variations, I've been calculating I calculating the wrong things. No, but it was a very interesting situation in terms of candidates qualification. I think it would be really interesting if people were following it much more closely. Instead, my colleagues are stealing on the limelights with all the cheating accusations of in Title Tuesdays and whatnot. So that's a pity because I think it's very fascinating what's going on and.
No, we're still, of course, pay attention to what's going on.
Of course. But the petitions are not about that, so that's a pity. It was very interesting because I have it's a very complex situation. I can try to go for the circuit. Tried to go for circuit.
I think you're still leading, right?
Well.
You're still
I'm leading as long as Wesley isn't finishing above second here. So I thought that I should have gone for it, and I should try to do well in the tournament. So I concluded that winning is better than drawing, and drawing is better than loss, as usual. But yesterday I have to say I sort of ignited a lot of complications. But I have to say Leinier played very well. I should have done better. I think I could have made a draw even in the end. I missed. Beautiful idea, which is I already thought I'm losing, and then still in the end, just before the final, before I'm already lost, I still have a chance. And actually, then I think that he would have settled for a draw because it's very complex, and there was a clear repetition there. So I could have played better yesterday, but overall, still a very exciting situation now with everybody's so close in the circuit and in the rating list as well. And also, I'm not intending to do anything odd. I'll play the normal tournaments, but it's possible also to try and get some extra rating points, like try to play some extra events.
I know. I mean, it's getting tricky. Yes, so the situation.
I think that shouldn't be like that. Like there should be some sort of a set of rules that would avoid it, because then in the end you can start to try to artificially do some weird things, which is fair, but just still. It makes it very, very odd. But it's nice that it's so close. And I think games today are exciting. And unlike yesterday was like the nightmare scenario for me. I not only lost, but also Wesley won, which was very bad for me. Today, though, it looks like everything's going quite well so far. I think Wesley is under a lot of pressure. I mean, I see this sacrifice on f7. I was very confused because I had a game with Duda. I have to see it from the start, this opening. Because there is a line like this where they go b6 and bc5. It is very much similar to this, but maybe it's not this, because here after queen f3 it seems like Wesley was in trouble. So Fabic somehow move ordered him. I was just trying to understand.
It seems this game is more exciting for you than your own game, yes? Where you keep
for sure, no, because it's very, very exciting. So Cas, 92, d5, e3, bishop a5. DC, DC, that's I think so far so good. Bishop d2, could it be b6 here? B6 here maybe?
Yeah, we'll ask Peter after. Yes, and
he
will come back to you.
It's a funny mix-up because, or it's not, I don't know, but suddenly here the bishop on a5 is, okay, I guess he has to still try and gamble this, but b4 is coming and b5 is the pawn down, so he tried to...
So while this game was happening, the plan when you were checking what's going on?
Yeah, I was. No, I mean my game is just.
What about yours? Solid. Yes, let's come back to yours. It's very solid, nice grandmaster
normally
game.
I play very risky. Like I played knight c6, which we have knight f6 here, which leads to all sorts of double-edged positions. Today I decided to play more solid. I just played knight f6 immediately.
Were you affected by the result yesterday? Let's say you just wanted to keep it calm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of thoughts. A lot of things went into it. I just liked, this position. I've beaten Fabiano here with white. It's my favorite position, actually, with both colors. Such positions I like, with both sides, I'm happy. With white, I'm happy. With black, I'm happy.
It's nice. You don't need to study too much if you know.
Beautiful position like that, It's just amazing. Like the opposite color bishop, nothing's happening. I beat Fabi actually very nicely in... he went queen d8 here in Bundesliga. So I played bishop to b3 and then one put the bishop on h3. I think it was good here. Here it feels like I'm under some pressure because it's hard for me to solve the tension in the center. Like let's say I cannot really go b5, which would be desirable because of this beautiful knight a3 resource. Otherwise I'll get b5. And knight on b5, it's very, very unpleasant. So, I also should never go really CD because it doesn't help. And again, if I do something like this, it only makes things worse because now he's getting very active. So all these central operations are not good. But instead, I think this plan of g6 followed by king g7 and then h5. Usually in a position like this, you have to make one active move and the opponent is already...
feels very good, yes, about it, yes.
He's already terrified because in a position like this, white is so risk-free, but the moment you go h5, h4, already white is like, okay, it's getting too risky.
Yes, it's time to make a draw here.
I thought I felt he's a little better, but after rook d3, he's lost a little coordination. I mean, I could go b5, ab, queen b5. I think white is slightly better, very, 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 very slightly better here. So I went rook dc8. It was very interesting. I'm trying to ignite some complications. I was going to calculate this business. Now you're discussing with Levon, rook g3 cd, then this is knight a3 move. Wow. dc a6, knight e4, but Levon mentioned knight e4 right away, which is probably better. And I guess it's okay. Of course, white doesn't want to enter such complications. He can try to go d5, but I think after d5, I was going to go knight g4. And I have also some ideas with knight e8, knight d6 maybe. I have a lot of play here with the h file, and he's this past pawn is a very long-term asset, which is hard to believe.
Anish, I mean, okay, the game at the end finished in a draw. You decided to repeat. I have a question for you. Tomorrow is a more important day. You play with Fabi. What are your thoughts with white pieces?
It looks like I was afraid of that situation already, but we are entering a situation where it might be better for my candidate's chances to lose than to draw.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating.
You mean against Fabi, yes?
For example, against Fabi already. It could very well be, because then I make him shoot higher above Wesley, which could be important. So obviously that creates a really messed up situation, because, I mean, of course I am never, I'm going to play for a loss or anything like that. So I'm not crazy.
Absolutely.
But it just creates kind of a funny
crazy situation. I mean, Anish, I'm really looking forward for this game tomorrow. I mean, all the best of luck for you.
Okay, just so you know.
Or maybe not best of luck.
Somehow I lose that game. It's just because I'm really stupid, not because I'm doing it on purpose. But I'm really curious. I think it depends a lot on this. Like if Wesley hosts today, he's still in a good shape. But if he loses, it gets very, very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anish. I'm really looking forward for this game. Hope to see you tomorrow.
You're
also.
afraid I'm already talking too much. You're afraid, but the next
don't
time
say anything.
You're afraid I will jeopardize the entire integrity of the game. No,
exactly. So, okay, thank you so much, and it's time to go back to the studio.
Thank you,
Anish and Anastasia. And let's check out the results so far of round 7.
Single draw.
Just one draw between Levon, Aronian and Anish, Giri. A very precisely accurate, calculated game.
He showed that he was ready to make that bishop takes g3 move. Very impressive.
I was very impressed by that.
Very
but let's go back to the main event.
Yes.
Bishop f7 was found, queen c7 was found. And then the move I was wondering about, and the move really I felt any human player will make here, is the move bishop b7.
Of course.
Because after queen b5, bishop g2, at least you have something to look forward to. You made this king stuck in the center. Unfortunately, you lose by force and very, very quickly after queen c4 check. Because if you move forward, you're just going to get mated. Like you can't really play king f6 because rook g1, or even more painfully knight h5 followed by rook g1. You're pawn down, you're also getting mated quite quickly here.
Right.
So you have to go back. Rook g1 is winning, but even faster is to start with knight f5. The queen has no good squares. We will follow it up with queen c5 check. And things just start completely collapsing after king g8. I mean, rook g1 once again is winning. Even stronger is starting with queen c7.
Out. Hitting the rook.
Yeah. You can, kind of interesting, you can go h6 here, creating this weird dynamic of queen b8, king h7, and the game sort of continues. But now after h6, finally it's time to go rook g1. Everything is hanging, and if you play rook b7, you just end up playing an endgame, a full piece down after everything comes off.
Yikes.
So Fabi, I think, will, having calculated very cleanly up to here, I would assume he takes on b5. Having played bishop b7, nobody really plays rook hd8 here, because why have you played bishop b7 then? You could have played bishop b6 and played 1 pawn down. Now you're 2 pawns down.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure Wesley takes, because he has basically resigned himself to having a bad position here and just trying to ask Fabi to out-calculate to the end. And yeah, I think this might be a bit of a miniature. I think my title is
in jeopardy.
Yeah, queen b5 played.
And okay, let's just run through that line one more time.
Bishop g2, queen c4 check.
Yeah, king is not going to run up the board. No. It's not going to survive that one. So hide it.
Yeah, you have to play king f8. And as I said, even rook g1, now bishop f3, knight f5 is completely and utterly lost, because rook takes g7 also coming back. You have to play bishop h3. I mean, this position also looks like you're borderline done here. With like rook g3, f3, But knight f5 is just.
But I think knight f5 is much more clean, because you've got this queen c5 check on any queen move in your pocket, and you're just picking up more material. Rook g1 as needed, queen c7 as needed.
This seems just over, because white is a pawn up, the king on e1. Very important, we have a pawn on a3, so we never have to worry about queen b4 check.
Right.
So this is completely safe. All 4 of our pieces, once the rook comes to g1, are actually attacking the black king.
Right.
Black is completely discoordinated. The rook on h8 never really joins the game. It's just over.
And there's no way to go queen b7 and hold that bishop there.
But what move do you make in this
I'm
position?
just trying to survive, that's all. I'm not
blaming you.
I don't have
I'm
high
not blaming you.
aspirations on that.
Yeah. It's just you can't make a move. 96 is the threat with queen f7 mate coming in. I mean, queen c5, queen takes c5, everything.
White's position is just a picture.
Yeah. No, it's just over. The other two games are still very much in progress, though.
Please tell us about them. What is going on in the game of Alireza?
Yeah,
because bishop b8 we didn't look at.
Yeah, g5 has been found, and Jan actually chose supposedly the second best move here, which is bishop b8. And the reason I'm saying it's second best move is that Alireza had a chance here, which he didn't seize, to play g5, g4. I'm pretty sure he was worried about rook b7.
Yeah,
because that seems to be a big threat.
Yeah.
But the engine suggests now you can actually return this exchange, play g6. I assume if you play rook g7, no, it actually goes g3 here, interestingly. I thought the idea was to play rook f7.
Rook f2, yeah.
But no, it plays g3, rook f7, king b6. And it says the inclusion of g4, and also very importantly, the point here is we have this threat.
Right.
Which doesn't win. Sorry, which doesn't win because of rook f1, but it makes a very comfortable draw.
Sure.
So he could have launched this immediate counterattack with g4, and you are very, very prepared to just give up this exchange to such an extent that the engine suggests this is maybe the best chance. But clearly, if we're playing bishop g3 here, we should have done it on the previous move.
Right.
g5, g4 is never going to be a bad move for black.
Useful.
But instead of that, Alireza played bishop b4, and now after let's say king b3, bishop a5, and rook b7, you can play bishop c7, which is, I think, why he did that. But you're still worse after bishop a7, because white is basically threatening to run the d-pawn down the board. And this rook, it looks very active, but the knight on e2 controls it unbelievably well. So it's kind of tricky to include it in the game. And d4, d5 is happening quite quickly. In fact, one of the suggestions of the engine is to spend these two tempi just to moving it to a different square. And it's still manageable, but he's kind of running low on time. He is a full 40 minutes behind on the clock. Good thing for him in that respect is that they made 27 moves in about 5 minutes flat. So he doesn't have very many moves to go until the first time control gets reached.
Just to check, after bishop b4, rook b7.
Yeah, he played rook b7 immediately.
This is what I wanted to check.
He played rook b7 immediately, but after bishop a5, shockingly, which is strictly the only move,
rook d7 isn't devastating.
Yeah, rook d7, king 8, we aren't actually winning anything here.
Right.
And rook takes e2 is now threatened.
Right.
So the engine does put it back.
But then we can run
Yeah, we
away.
can run, but for some reason it actually likes king d8 better than king f8 here, which is really shocking.
I would be running for the hills.
Exactly. Can we just check what's going to happen after king f8?
No, it just says we are actually moving away from the one big important thing about this position, and the king on d8 can be a defender, because I think it's important for us to have access to bishop c7. I think that's the explanation. Not that the king is unsafe on f8, it's just that the engine likes having access to bishop c7 as a resource. Very, very complicated position. As I said, like 18 minutes for like 15 moves here would be panic stations. 18 minutes for 8 moves, or 9 as the case may be, I think is sort of manageable, but still plenty of scope to go wrong now after rook b7.
For me, Jovi, that line that Peter just showed it's something of a gem to it, because if you look at this position that I have on my analysis board, after the move bishop b8, again, bishop b4 was chosen by Alireza, but this move g4, with the idea of a double exchange sacrifice. Like, just check that out once more. Takes. So I've just sacrificed one exchange, and then after all of these very natural-looking moves, here comes
the other
second exchange sacrifice. Talk about a bolt out of the blue, and suddenly the pawn goes to g2, and rook f1 saves the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gorgeous tactical sequence
touch, right?
of one exchange sacrifice, a second exchange, followed by a third rook sacrifice, rook f1. That's
can't stop the pawn from
great
promoting
stuff.
without giving
Great
itself
stuff.
up.
Thank you for that, Peter. That's really, really nice. We do have bishop b4, by the way, on the board. Let me go to the current position. I'll just bishop b4, rook b7, and this is where
Alireza's thinking.
The move bishop a5.
Yeah, bishop a5 needs to be played. There's really nothing else after rook b7.
But it's kind of funny. You seem to be suggesting that rook d7 is not the most potent threat.
What happens if you play g4 here?
That was my question.
Yeah, now we lose to king b3, and with the king on b3, after bishop a5, rook d7 check, king e8, and very importantly, bishop d6. And the difference is rook takes e2 is no longer a check. So let's check. Hang on. So here, if I do this, because this is still actually kind of unclear to me.
Rook takes knight, check.
We have a perpetual, because I can't run forward.
Because of rook c3.
If I run forward, I get
mated.
I get mated myself. This is amazing. This is such an interesting position. And so the only reason this isn't winning here is because we can't avoid the perpetual. Everything else loses. Right. It's only the perpetual, but the perpetual is available on squares e2, e1, e3. Whereas if you include g4 and king b3, the threat of rook d7, bishop d6 pretty much ends the game.
Decisive.
Yeah. So you have to realize the extent of the danger you're in and go bishop a5 here.
And 16 minutes to do that. And what move are they on again?
30.
This is 32 for white. So nine moves for Alireza to make.
Real challenge for Alireza. And then finally, a game that seems to have all the pieces, everything on the board, is between Leinier and Ricci. This is the Nigel Short attack, if you will, or the Jovi attack. No. What's going on? What has happened since we left it? It doesn't look like a lot has happened.
Leinier did choose the move bishop d3, which I highlighted as a kind of a conservative option.
Right.
I thought even taking and playing c5 was playable. I generally don't hate this for black. Pretty much always, I feel that these positions are quite playable. But Richard chose bishop g6, and then they kind of improved the position of most pieces slowly. Black is playing. And this does very much remind us of the advanced French, but with the bishop outside the chain, which is obviously a huge improvement. And the current position looks like this. White has this really awkward knight on e1. The way to improve it would be to play g3 with the idea knight g2, knight f4. If that actually lands and wins the bishop on h5 for the knight, white probably immediately stands better.
Right.
But I would assume what black does is you play something like knight b6, either immediately after cd4, cd4. And once it's here, I will go back to trading it for the bishop, because you really want to trade it for the bishop, not for the knight.
Right.
And then this knight gets to c4. And those positions are very sharp.
We're just going to go back, Jovi, to our crucial game for first place,
make a
because
beeline
we think
towards Fabiano Caruana
we
against
think
Wesley,
Fabi
because knight f5
on the board.
The critical move is on the board, attacking the queen.
For Wesley So fans, big trouble. In fact, knight attacking the queen. There's just no good squares for the queen. Queen f7 again. Queen c5 check. What are you going to do? You don't want to go to e8. That will be a fork on d6. You don't want to go to g8. That will be knight e7. This could be a miniature. By the way, how close is Fabi to that exalted 2800?
Well, we've been told that with a win, Fabi recrosses the 2800 rating mark, which is quite funny because he crossed it in the Isle of Man.
Right.
But presumably he lost it later on,
After losing to Hikaru.
Hikaru, he lost it again.
At one moment, I believe he was 2852. I remember he was like closing in on Magnus's rating. He was number 2 in the world by far. But 2800 has been a barrier. And a lot of players have actually been falling out of the 2800 class. At one time, I think we had maybe 5 or 6 players above 2800. Not any longer.
Now it's just Magnus,
This seems to be a deflation in the 2800 class. Knight f5 on the board, Peter, and poor Wesley suffering. Is there any tricks?
A fantastic reversal of fortunes today after winning a positional masterpiece yesterday, converting an advantage we all know is significant, but you still have to win against a very, very strong player, and he did it very, very nicely, never losing control. And today, to just get blown out of the water like this, it's going to hurt. Luckily for him, there is quite a bit of leeway in terms of the rating race. And Anish, I think, mentioned that him finishing in the top 2 here will propel him to the top of the circuit standings. So he's not gonna, although he actually gets overtaken by Fabi if he loses, right? So he will be tied for second behind Fabi leading on +2. So yeah, very interesting situation. Lots to follow, but in terms of this particular position, we can discuss the implications of this result. Basically, this is a result.
Well, definitely one implication is that he is now the winner of the Grand Chess Tour.
Fabi, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, he needed a catastrophe to occur for him not. Yeah, exactly. Not to get anything.
Yeah.
And MVL's there on 50%.
Right.
Now Fabi is +2.
Wow. Alireza did find the move bishop a5. It was actually the only move.
Alireza realized he needs to do this, and now we are getting that position after probably king b3. The question is whether Jan repeats once here to perhaps try to invite black to play king f8, which I think would be very attractive to most human players, you know, getting it away from mating nets.
I'm sure in a blitz or rapid game, you trot your king to f8
Absolutely.
almost
And
with a
D5
feint.
comes, and then you think, oh dear.
How do I get my king back to d8?
Alireza down to 14 minutes here. I think Jan will be disinclined to repeat, honestly. I think he would very much like to put as much pressure on the clock here as possible. So my suspicion is he goes king b3 here, bishop c7, bishop a7. And once again asks the question. There is more than one solution which seems acceptable. King e7, trying to run towards like f6, g6 here. The engine suggests is playable. I mentioned the move rook h2. Let's make another rather obvious move. g5, g4, d5, you probably almost lost, because e5, king e7 is now not quick enough. The engine goes knight d4.
Or even knight d4.
Knight d4, and then all the threats to your pieces, like you would like to play king f6, but that immediately loses material to bishop d7.
Nasty.
I like this rook h2 idea, with a simple idea that when d5 comes, you're ready to seize the defensive with rook h6.
That as well.
And blockade the d6 pawn.
as
So
well.
could you put rook h2 on the board there, Peter?
Sure.
Rook
Let me find my place.
You're right here.
I know, but we already have it on file somewhere, but I can't find it.
Oh.
I like keeping everything in one place, but I seem to have mislaid my bishop
Oh
h2
no, hang on
line.
a second. It's
Oh no,
It's
I
there,
mean the
yeah.
inclusion,
Yeah,
so rook h2, d5 takes, and I like your rook h6. If you're gonna stop the pawn, stop the pawn. Don't.
I said I didn't.
Nope. Need to play actively. You can. I think one conclusion we can sort of make from watching the engine play this perfectly is black pretty much never has time to play passively. You absolutely need to start with this check, and then after the king goes somewhere, like if it goes on the c file, the king c4 is a playable move here, but that allows us a chance to play bishop b6 check and finally trade something off the board, which allows us to breathe exactly a sigh of relief. And if it goes to the a file, let's say king a2, the engine goes takes, and plays specifically rook a8, once again to try and, it gives yourself, I think, maybe importantly, the c8 square for the king, and after knight d4, I don't know how findable this is. Rook h4 is strictly the only move in this position.
Wow.
Strictly the only move.
Why is it strictly?
I have no idea.
You want to
no idea.
you want to knight c6 check, bishop a6. You want to play rook a4. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Yeah, if we play g4 here, bishop 6 is even stronger somehow, but also knight c6 is winning, and it's exactly as Yasser is saying. Here, bishop a6 is very strong, and you would very much like
to play rook a4,
to
teleport rook a4.
Check. Yeah. No, this is not trivial. This is not trivial at all.
Wow. By the way, I mean, if you look at that final position with the rook, the two bishops, and the knight, it's kind of a harmonic convergence of white's pieces all on your king.
Absolutely, yeah.
If the game were to end there. By the way, again, I mean, for Alireza, I mean, this is really, it's gone so tragically wrong. 2 losses in a row from his exalted position, and he's under pressure to find only moves after playing this tabia for 27 moves. Not exactly what he had in mind coming into today's game.
What was unbelievable about this particular tabia was there were so many draws.
Right.
But this position is like massively complicated.
Truly, truly. And again, just coming into studios, we were told, Jovi, that Alireza had been streaming his title Tuesday performance, expecting that he was having a free day. No, he was not. He was actually playing it, and he is playing it against
And that
Nepo.
quote about Jan preparing for him.
What was that about?
Seems like Jan did prepare for him.
I guess he did. Explain that to the audience, Peter. There was some Twitter feuding going on.
No,
what
you're
was
on
it?
stream, you get asked questions, and
Right,
I'm sure
the
it was
chat.
like tongue-in-cheek, he
Don't
said.
you have to prepare for
Exactly,
Nepo?
and he says, no, I don't prepare for Nepo. Nepo prepares for me,
Exactly.
You've got to get the psychology
No
on point.
lies detected. Watching this, absolutely no lies detected.
So Nepo did prepare for him.
Yes.
Very well. And let's just check again the Sinquefield Cup standings. GCT standings, sorry. As we think with a victory today, it's all assured.
Yeah, it's in the bag. With a victory today, Fabiano Caruana, you see already he has 33 Grand Chess Tour points. He's 11 ahead of Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He needed a disaster for everything to go wrong for him to finish in bottom place. But with
If
plus
he finish anywhere
there's no
near
way.
the top half, he's got a
He's
clinch.
gonna
I want
Because
to,
he would
I want
5,
to
6,
ask
7 points.
Ben Underwood to do a little bit of research here, because I'm wondering, if Fabi wins this, will this be a record for the top score for the tour? Because
I
that will be
think it is.
46 points.
That's
and
huge.
46 points is quite a lot of points.
He would have won Bucharest, the other classical event. He would have won the Sinquefield Cup, a classical event. He did well in the Rapid and Blitz. Yeah, I would say it's it would be a event.
And we do have a very interesting graphic. Lethal winners, stubborn losers. So take a look at the average move count of winning games.
So these are the players who've won games. 33 victories by Firouzja.
No, that's an
average
average.
move count.
33 moves.
Yeah.
Ah, and the games that he's won,
It's
he's
been an
moved them
average of
quickly.
33. So he's a
Nepo's
fast
the
mover.
grinder? I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have guessed he was like the abracadabra man.
No, but that's the thing I think people kind of don't realize about him. He is a very good technical player, and he actually enjoys it and does it well, winning slightly better positions by continuing to ask questions. And then the other side of it, the flip
What's
side.
the flip side?
Yeah. Oh, Dominguez, untouchable. Of course, these are just
At
the
the
stats
bottom,
from
at the bottom,
the
at the bottom.
Sinquefield Cup.
You got a big fat 0 there. Leinier. Fabi. So Fabi loses quickly.
Quicker than everybody else.
Quicker than Wesley.
But still, 44 moves is a lot of time. So
Peter, I'm sorry, I missed your name there.
I don't count.
What was it?
and there we can see some interesting stats again. Firouzja only has 3 Sinquefield Cup wins, whereas Rapport has only 1 Sinquefield Cup win.
Right.
And Dominguez, he is untouchable. He's never lost a game in the Sinquefield Cup.
I feel this is a bit misleading though, because Firouzja only has 3 Sinquefield Cup wins. This is his second year playing,
right?
And he has none here. So he won 3 in the previous event, and people winning 3 in the Grand Chess Tour Classical event is, I would have removed the word only from there.
Not bad. It's not bad.
These
It's actually pretty
graphics
nice.
and interesting statistics come courtesy of our resident statistician, Ben Underwood.
Thank you, Ben. Bishop d3, e2, Leinier's last move. And by the way, both Richie and Leinier do have a reputation of getting themselves into time trouble, and it feels like they're heading in that direction, Jovi, because they haven't made that many moves, actually. 16 moves each. all the pieces, all the pawns on the board, and they only have 30 minutes.
Yeah, and this is actually a very interesting strategic point in this game, because suddenly there is a choice here for black, which I think, and Richard has already not played that move. Maybe he will play it next move, but another thing that we might be a bit worried about, I will return to my point in a second, but bishop g6, bishop d3 on the board, which is a bit of a draw for him.
Yes.
And I would very much like for this game to continue, because it's a very complicated, very, very interesting position with all 32 pieces on the board. I will be a bit disappointed if they actually repeat with bishop h5, bishop e2. Okay. But the point I was trying to make is, generally speaking, in particular with the black pawn already on a4 and the white pawn already on a3, you think white is trying in this structures to give mate on the king side, black is trying to just collect everything on the queen side.
Yeah.
But specifically with the bishop on e2, and once again, remember there's this really, really horrible horse on e1, the engine was suggesting c5, c4, which is a move that you would normally assign like a double question mark to.
Right.
Because you've killed off your entire counterplay on the queen side. You're never doing this anymore.
Right.
You're never challenging the center from the queen side. But this is now killed off. This will be a fantastic, fantastic bishop on g6, completely unchallenged. And also, the white pieces are so unimpressive, you can actually start digging with f6. You can switch to the king side. And the engine was saying c5, c4, big advantage for black.
Wow.
Starts liking black massively with the idea of, let's say, once again, if we could do this, we would be happy.
Right.
But it immediately lands, basically. It goes bishop g6, and then if the rook goes somewhere, it starts landing f7, f6 ideas.
And sorry to disappoint you, Peter, but it does appear a repetition.
No, that's only one, right? They've done it once.
But I would like to add a little caveat to this, c5, c4. When you analyze these type of positions with a computer, the computer, like 9 times out of 10, is saying close the center, grab the space, and it will go black is better.
Right.
And then you play on a few moves, and it's like, okay, oh, by the way, no, but I wasn't quite right there.
No, what I will say is that it wasn't saying, let's say, if we go one move back, with the bishop still on the b1, h7, b1 diagonal, it absolutely does not suggest it here. Right. It is only as a reaction to bishop d3, e2 that it was so in love with it. Because here, c4, bishop c2, it's very happy with white. Yes. It's on a good diagonal, it's not in the way. It also protects against the black bishop landing on g6 and harassing our rook on b1. It's very, very specifically against bishop e2 that this was an option. And I honestly, knowing Richard, I don't think he repeats more than once. They're both very low on time. This is move 17. It makes sense to repeat once just to get closer to the time control. But I would suspect he plays on.
Well, we will find out in the next few moves whether the players are feeling in a peaceful mood or whether they are going to continue the game. And can we quickly revisit the action that is happening in Fabiano against Wesley? Because all the moves that we predicted...
2-move repetition in the game
are on the board. And Wesley's position is still looking very sorry. Wesley's not even there.
Queen c5, king g8 on the board. Rook g1 is completely winning, but as I said, queen c7 is just a complete knockout blow, because the rook has no good squares. Like, you can play something like rook e8, but now both rook g1 is completely winning, and you can also continue improving your position by playing 96 and then rook g1 next move. It's just very, very bad. But even if you do this, which is maybe slightly milder in terms of impact, you're still, at the very least, winning the a7 pawn next move.
It looks devastating.
I mean, here black can do something like this and, pretend that the game is still somehow on, but it really isn't.
No.
This is not a good... I wanted to
Queen
do this.
d7, of course.
I wanted to say, now I'm very ready to play.
I don't think Wesley wants to look at his position,
I recognize that, right? Because sometimes your position is just horrifies you. You're thinking, okay, the best thing I can do is just simply walk away and leave it to its own devices.
My tattered position, my wreck behind. Now, this is, again, I'm trying to think. We've all lost bad games. That goes without a saying. But I'm trying to think of a Wesley So game where he's lost.
None come to mind.
Right?
And look at the precision. He's clearly looking for Queen c7.
Queen c7.
And there you have it.
Look at the precision on that man.
Give me that exchange on b8. which I will happily capture with check. Welcome to take the rook. No, can't do that. Can't make that trade. It's terrible.
I tell you what move will come as a shock to Fabi.
What's that?
Rook h8 to f8. Castles!
Yeah. This position becomes very, like, maybe you lose it.
Fischer random, right?
Exactly, yeah. In a Fischer random game, you probably just lose to rook h8, f8 castles here. Because suddenly you can't castle either side, and
Yeah, you get mated for something horrible.
you just get mated in the center. But that's a different situation.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that.
You're right.
The king is halfway there.
Yeah. Just failed to complete the move. Sorry. Sorry, mate. Wow. No, this looks terrible. Queen c7. I have no suggestions. Yeah. We do have Alireza playing bishop a5, and finally it seems to me that Jan is actually, he had built up a nice advantage on the clock. He had like an hour and some time, and now he's down to 47 minutes. So for the first time, I really think that Jan has taken some time. And sorry to say, but repetition going on?
No repetition, yes.
B7, B5.
I thought you were going to say, I'm sorry to say, that there is no repetition.
B7, B5, wow, okay.
Well, with the idea of just seizing as much space as possible on the queen side.
Do we like this move, though?
I always like it, because, at least you're threatening B4. As in you're just making it an option for a later date.
Yeah, it's perfectly playable, and perhaps it's time for white to actually offload some pieces of the board. It's not going to be an easy choice, but it seems like in this particular position, d takes c5 might be playable.
Okay.
Just to get some things off the board while you can, and also stop, as Jovanka was saying, b5 is. I think there's a very direct idea here of just playing b5 before next move and starting to really challenge the white setup.
Okay.
And if we don't do anything about it...
Oh, and let's go
Wesley, a quick shake of the head. He didn't see an answer to queen c7.
And he resigned, and well, there we see Fabiano Caruana winning in how many moves?
24, I think.
Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong
moves.
Sorry.
What a game there from Fabiano Caruana. What a disappointment from Wesley. It just went wrong from the opening. And one big mistake just set off a catalyst for more bad decisions.
Like you said, a little knowledge was a bad thing. This move b7, b6, mistimed. I mean, Wesley knew he needed to play b6 in some variation. Overlooked queen f3. Queen f3 landed on the board, and it was splat.
Absolutely, and yeah, with that, the rating race heats up, and the implications of this for both the circuit race and the rating race are something that we can discuss for a very long time, because I think both have become a lot closer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have. By the way, Fabi's road ahead. He's playing two of the players who are actually not performing very well, Jovi.
Yeah, he's just defeated Wesley So.
Huge victory.
Will be playing Anish Giri tomorrow, and then Richard Rapport
to finish the event. Exactly, and he's looking fabulous. To +2, he essentially, with this victory, he sealed the deal. He's now our Grand Chess Tour champion 2023, so our congratulations to him. Still everything to play for in the Sinquefield Cup. Wesley's fans will be disappointed, but he's still +1.
And still, one game remaining.
Right.
Because he does
he
have
has
a
the
bye in the 9th and final round.
Exactly.
But anything can happen. That's what we've seen. Someone takes the lead, and then maybe... you never know. Anish might play the role of spoiler.
Put it in context for us. This is a huge victory for Fabi. Again, I mean, it's just crazy. It's all gone well.
For Fabi, it's just a fantastic year. Maybe one of the best years, if not the best year of his career. But and I think maybe this is part of the reason why he's playing so well. He doesn't actually need it anymore. Mm-hmm. He is more or less assured of winning the Grand Chess Tour. He needed to play okay. He didn't really need to win the tournament. He needed to play fine. And he already has qualified for the candidates. So he is pretty much free to roam here, free to express himself. Whereas half of the field are still scrambling to qualify for the candidates.
Exactly.
So for them, it's a lot more important, and perhaps there is more pressure on them, and specifically like on Wesley and Anish, who are locked in that race for the final spot.
Exactly.
But yeah, for Wesley, this makes his certain qualification somewhat questionable. But the interesting part is, I think, despite the gap between him and Wesley closing down, I think Anish might be unhappy about this. Because I think Anish would much rather Wesley was winning this tournament.
Right.
Because then that would probably qualify him through the circuit and remove him altogether from the rating conversation.
Right.
But now that he might not win the circuit, and with this loss, his win in the circuit is a lot less assured, he is still 5 points ahead of both him and Leinier in the rating race, with very, very few games left.
Right.
So I get the feeling, once again, my calculations, I'm pretty sure Anish and people around Anish are much more, conversant in this. But my base feeling here is that this is probably not great news for Anish, despite his direct competitor losing and coming closer to him in terms of the chase. But still some games left, and we will be continuing to update that story as results come in.
Sure, and just remind everybody of what kind of a year it's been for this man.
It's been a fabulous one,
Truly.
Yasser, and it started with first place in the Grand Chess Tour Romania, $100,000 for him, came fourth in Croatia, also secured a spot at the 2024 candidates by coming in third at the World Cup,
Baku,
US champion, Grand Chess Tour winner of the Rapids, St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, and now Grand Chess Tour 2023 winner.
The man we're talking about is with Anastasia. Let's go to Anastasia in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. You kept counting money of Fabiano, and we were watching it. So, Fabi, welcome to the studio, and congratulations on your victory today against Wesley. Such an important game, I guess, for the tournament and for you. So, where did you manage to trick him?
Well, he mixed up lines in the opening. I was a bit surprised he went for this line, but I knew some details about it. I think, there's a theory that goes something like here and then BC, and the point is of Queen f3, Bishop d7. I think this is like the point. And there were some games, I think, like Jan played a game, something like this, Bishop e7, Queen c2, or maybe it was Bishop e7 first, Knight d7, I think Rook fd1 against Grishuk. I forget how it went, but this was some game Jan was black against Grishuk. And so, this move was not very good. And then then when he played b6, I understood he mixed up, because he can still play, like, okay, if knight e5, I thought Bishop c4 is quite important. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to understand this position, but I thought that he doesn't have like, I don't know, b4 first, or sorry, e4 I think was my final decision that I was going to go for. And if he takes the pawn, the problem is his bishop is bad on a5. If he trades it, he's worse. If he retreats, then he's losing a lot of time, and he's probably also worse. But here, it took me a lot of calculation, because first I was looking at here and then Queen a4, but then I thought knight d5 or something. Probably everything I analyzed was wrong.
Everything is...
But I had a feeling that when I saw this Queen f3, because the first point, which probably he missed,
Bishop before, yes,
this is
here.
very important.
Very nice. Somehow computer still continues here when Bishop a6.
Yeah,
and yes,
I thought like, I wasn't sure castle, yes. And then Rook d1, or actually maybe not Rook d1. I see it's a mistake, but anyway, I thought like I'm certainly better here.
Yes, I mean
in some manner.
It's a question if you will convert it.
Yeah, and then the other sharp move is knight d5, but after Bishop c4, I didn't see how, because knight e5 I give this check, and after Bishop d7 I take, and Queen e4, I think, is good. And I was trying to understand the position like Bishop b7, I think. And then I thought probably castle is strong, but I wasn't 100% sure, because a lot of things are hanging, and there's always some tactics here, so.
Yeah.
But he decided to go for this. I thought it's very logical. And then, he should have played here, here, and now here, and then sack the pawn, and okay, black will have certainly some chances to draw the game, perhaps.
Like knight b5, yes, or what?
I wasn't
Queen
sure, because
b5.
I can play knight b5, Queen a2, I can play queen. I was thinking Queen d3 is very promising endgame, because here I force him to take with the other rook, and then I get like knight a4. So I was calculating something like this, take, and I think finally it's just like f3, or no, sorry, Bishop c3. This was a final important move.
Do you have two bishops here in the extra pawn?
Yeah.
Should we?
Yeah, maybe he, like, some tactics he might survive. I thought he should go for this anyway, because here it just feels rotten, like, I don't know, probably many ways.
But you found this also nice sacrifice, bishop f7.
Yeah, no, I think what I did was very clean, but of course everything should be strong. Like, the point is, if castle and bishop b5 is probably just winning an exchange, because I take and bishop b4. And if e5, then queen f3, I think simply. And again, he's just not developed. I think, like, one important detail I saw, which really convinced me, was that queen c5, I have knight e4, this ends it completely.
Yeah.
Because if take queen
yes,
f7,
in 96, okay.
Queen c4, knight e6, and knight e4, queen...
I'm not so fast, need time to realize things.
I think that after b5, it still required some calculation, because, of course, I can do various moves like bishop a2, bishop e2, all very promising moves. But of course, this is very forcing, because if he takes with the pawn, then it's simply checkmate. Knight e4, knight h5, I don't know which I would choose, but they both look like checkmate.
Yeah.
And then here, it's forced, e5 is forced. First, my thought was to go for this. I mean, but then I realized that it's not so easy. Because if he takes, then bishop g4, I thought. And then f3, and he takes, and rook d8, I think, I don't know, maybe it's still winning, but I thought it's like getting a bit... maybe
complicated,
messy.
yes.
But this was very, I didn't see anything here for him. I mean,
Knight, king g6, maybe he could try to walk, but not
here,
far away, yes.
And then take, I don't
you
know.
take on c6, yes, okay.
Like, I didn't believe this. And
No,
then if
knight
rook
e4.
h, queen e4. I mean, like, best case for him, he only is down a pawn with a miserable position.
Exactly.
Okay, I thought maybe he can play rook b6 here or something. But okay, he gave me the second pawn, and now it's completely hopeless.
Now it's completely winning 1 second game in a row. How do you feel about it? Finally, you played with white.
Yeah, and no, I have to say I got some good fortune in the last 2 games. I mean, Wesley almost never has games like this, so probably he was a bit nervous because the tournament situation is like, it was his last tough game. It was his last black game with the black pieces, and if he draws this game, then he's probably going to at least share first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So. Okay, for me, I have 2 games left, but he only has 1 left because he has the,
has already
the bye.
Had bye. I had Anish here before, and he said that tomorrow you are playing against him, and he said that it's considering his spot in the candidates, it's better for him maybe even to lose this game. What do you think about it? Have you thought about it?
No, I after this game, I gave it some thought, and I realized maybe he doesn't necessarily want to go all out because if he loses, it's very bad for him.
Yeah.
For the rating. And if I win the tournament, then maybe it's also not bad for him, like that Wesley doesn't win. So I don't know what his approach will be anyway. I'll try to approach it like a normal game, and of course it's on him to make some maybe strategic decision. Of course he's not going to lose.
Absolutely. He said at the end that if I lose, it's just because I'm stupid or something, but not because I really wanted to do it. But he said just we can't come into such a weird situation that these kind of scenarios are possible.
Yeah, of course. Last night I was thinking of because it's very interesting, all the possible scenarios for the candidates, because it's completely open now. Like Anish, Wesley, even Leinier now has an outside chance, but also Gukesh, Aragaisi, I think, has a chance.
Yes, everybody is
Powerham has a chance. I mean, it's like completely wide open race. So it's very interesting because there's so many events at the end of the year. Like in December, we have
Rapid and Blitz and the other event. Do you feel, comfortable, watching all this and not fighting for the spot anymore?
Yeah, I don't have to stress out or worry about these things. Maybe for example, Wesley or Anish, it's actually not a good thing because it gives them some extra pressure. Like in this tournament, they don't have to think just about the tournament, but also about what happens for candidates.
Exactly, yes. By the way, congratulations, you just crossed 2,800 again, yes.
Thank you.
You see, you're getting closer to Magnus, something what we discussed with you before the tournament.
Yeah, no, of course. Overall, so far, it's been, still 2 rounds to go, but so far it's been a very, very good event for me.
Yeah. All the best of luck for the next rounds, Fabi, and we're going back to the studio.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anastasia.
And congratulations to Fabiano once more because, Fabi said it, he managed to take advantage of Wesley's nerves there.
Absolutely.
And to score a resounding victory. Now he moves into the front of the table and then a draw between Levon, Aronian and Anish, Giri. And I think it's the perfect time for us to take our second break of the day.
Let's do it.
And we have a nice feature lined up on the community outreach program about chess in St. Louis. So enjoy that and we'll see you in a few moments.
So today's Community Day. All the participants of the U.S. Championship are going to schools around St. Louis and, teaching kids openings, end games, tactics, doing some fun stuff like hand and brain, some simuls, and we just finished our first class and it was really fun.
I see kids taking the skills that they're learning in chess, whether that be critical thinking, decision-making skills, planning skills, and I see them applying that throughout the rest of their school day, whether it's in classes or sports or even just how they interact with one another and with their teachers.
I play with my auntie, my mom, my sisters. Sometimes on the weekends, we go to the park and we play. They be begging me to teach them. I show them new stuff, new openings. I show them that. And so I'm trying to see them get better and try to beat me.
What I like about chess is just trying to have fun and learn new things, and maybe I'll get more into it and it'll maybe be my full career.
I heard that if you play chess, you make better decisions in life, so I always want to make better decisions in life.
I can tell you that they've engaged more in critical thinking. They are looking analytically at moves and trying to think ahead.
I like the complexity of chess, how you have to think about every single move you make. Every move you make, whether it's gonna put your king in check, whether it's gonna put your anything in danger, whether it's just a move that you make. Everything counts in the long run. I like how it makes me use my critical thinking, makes me look at the whole board.
I think it's teaching them to be persistent. We have a lot of students who it takes them, it may take a few weeks or even months in chess club to master a particular strategy or skill. And what I think that teaches kids is even if they don't get it the first time around, or even if it's difficult the first time around, it's worth sticking to it.
Well, one thing's for certain, without the St. Louis Chess Club, we would not have chess instructors because, I don't know if you all know this, but there is a critical shortage of teachers and educators, and especially those in areas that are not core content area. And because of the St. Louis Chess Club collaboration, we have people who come in here working with students who want to work with them. Today, with the experience, the Grandmaster Community Outreach Day, I came up and I'm like, well, what's a grandmaster? And they're like, oh, you don't know what a grandmaster is? And they were able to explain that. And they recognize the importance and the seriousness. I mean, it's a sport, it's a profession. And so they're able to see things outside of the sports that we typically promote in school.
It makes me feel good because learning stuff like this will help me build my problem solving skills, help me build strategy and helping my brain.
Hello, I'm Women's Grandmaster Begim Tokhorjanova. I will be creating content for Grand Chess Tour. Follow us on social media and catch more behind the scenes content.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today.
Yeah, it's amazing what the club has done for chess in general because, it's already been 15 years and they've done countless national championships, tournaments for juniors, helping around schools, and they've just grown the game so much across the United States.
I think if I look at my own career and I look at American chess in general, we're in a much better place than we were 15 years ago, and so the contributions have been immense, and of course it's all thanks to Dr. Gina Sinquefield and Rex Sinquefield.
I would say that St. Louis Chess Club is like a rock in the ocean of chess, and we know that it's there. It is there, it will be there. I think it sends a hope that the game of chess will always stay afloat. By the mere fact of its existence, I think it sends positive waves across the globe.
The World Chess Hall of Fame, located in the heart of St. Louis's historic Central West End. Want to know why chess has intrigued people around the world for nearly 1,500 years? Stop by and learn about the impact of chess from our 3 floors showcasing the art, culture, and history of the game. The World Chess Hall of Fame has something for everyone to enjoy. For more information on current exhibits, please visit worldchesshof.org. St. Louis, the chess capital of the United States. It also plays host to an award-winning shop dedicated to chess merchandise, all-occasion gifts, and plenty more. At Q Boutique, you can shop both in-store and online. From quirky greeting cards to luxury chess sets, there is something for everyone at Q Boutique. Enjoy a shopping experience like no other. Make sure to check out QBoutiqueSTL.com for a wide variety of gifts for everyone to enjoy.
The St. Louis Chess Club Scholastic Program brings the educational value of chess to kids in schools across the St. Louis area. Active in over 100 schools throughout the St. Louis city and county, the St. Louis Chess Club has been able to reach over 85,000 students in both in-school and after-school programs. We view chess as a valuable educational tool. Learn more about our scholastic programming by visiting stlouischessclub.org/education.
Hello, I'm Women's Grandmaster Riyam Tokhjanova. I will take you behind the scenes of the Grand Chess Tour. Follow us on social media and don't miss out on players' interviews and more content from the playing hall.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States and is among the best in the world. Thanks to co-founders Dr. Jeannie Cairn Sinquefield and Rex Sinquefield, the St. Louis Chess Club is a non-profit organization committed to promoting the game of chess locally and internationally. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area, promoting cognitive development, critical thinking, concentration, and analytical skills. The St. Louis Chess Club welcomes chess lovers of any age and skill level to come and enjoy the game of chess. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. Championships and the American Cup, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players, including the prestigious Sinquefield Cup, Cairns Cup, and many more. All tournaments can be streamed via our YouTube and Twitch channels that also include over 2,000 chess lectures for anyone to enjoy. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, merchandise discounts, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today.
The World Chess Hall of Fame, located in the heart of St. Louis's historic Central West End. Want to know why chess has intrigued people around the world for nearly 1,500 years? Stop by and learn about the impact of chess from our 3 floors showcasing the art, culture, and history of the game. Landmarked by the world's largest chess piece sitting outside our front door, the World Chess Hall of Fame has something for everyone to enjoy, including various exhibitions, monthly concerts, and much more. Whether you are a beginner or a professional, there is something for everyone to learn here at the World Chess Hall of Fame. Enjoy free admission to our rotating exhibitions in our galleries and sign up for chess events, family-friendly programming, and art classes. And don't forget to stop by our award-winning gift shop, Q Boutique, and shop a wide selection of chess-related merchandise. For more information on current exhibits, please visit worldchesshof.org. St. Louis, the chess capital of the United States, boasts the world-class St. Louis Chess Club and the World Chess Hall of Fame. It also plays host to an award-winning shop dedicated to chess merchandise, all-occasion gifts, and plenty more. At Q Boutique, you can shop both in-store and online for chess merchandise, autographed collectibles, chess campus souvenirs, and much, much more. From quirky greeting cards to luxury chess sets, there is something for everyone at Q Boutique. And all purchases go right to benefiting new exhibitions and programs at the World Chess Hall of Fame, dedicated to exploring chess and its immense impact on art and culture. Located on the first floor of the World Chess Hall of Fame, enjoy a shopping experience like no other and become everyone's favorite gift giver. If you can shop in store, make sure to check out QBoutiqueSTL.com for a wide variety of gifts for everyone to enjoy.
We are back with our coverage of round 7 of the Sinquefield Cup, and it's been a dramatic start already. We did have a very calm draw between Levon, Aronian and Anish, Giri, but everything exploded because Fabiano Caruana defeated Wesley so in a most impressive fashion, and suddenly everything has blown up. Fabiano Caruana in the lead now. And when it comes to the candidate 2024 spots, well, now it's all wide open again.
Yeah, because that loss, that defeat by Wesley has made the rating race that much more interesting. And talking about Leinier Dominguez being as one of those players in this rating race, he has quite a game, battle going on between himself and Richie. Bring us up to date, Peter.
Yeah, b5 was a black decline to repeat with bishop g6, bishop h5, which we were really not that worried about, considering how combative both of these guys are.
Right.
Leinier declined the opportunity of changing the structure here with dc5, played g3. Black responded by taking and playing knight b6, which is a very logical continuation. This is a fantastic square for
after all,
the knight. Bishop takes g6, and h6 looks like the most obvious move in the world, but sometimes in these structures, they actually do this to castle sort of safely, because having the f file to look forward to, I think, makes any potential attacks on the king side for white much less realistic. But h6 cannot really be criticized. h4, and knight c4, bishop g5. And in this position, I would have assumed you just play for some kind of b5, b4 counterplay.
Right.
But the Indian weirdly takes on g5 and then starts shuffling. There is all kinds of really strange shuffling going on, because I saw on my screen the engine first bringing this one over to b3, and then actually sending the other one back to c6, which really blows my mind. I don't understand what this is.
I like the concept, though, of getting a knight to b3.
Sure.
But it's primarily just to control the C line.
Control the C file, absolutely. But instead of this, and I think very much, in keeping with what kind of a chess player he is, Richard says, let's blow things up.
Right.
I like to watch the world burn. And burn it potentially might here. This is a very strong reply. The point being, I'm pretty sure that after f takes c5, white is not going to do the obvious thing, which after castles, this is still unclear, but this is very playable for black. The king side is now vulnerable, obviously. The pawn on g6 is now potentially weak, but the rook often comes to f5, and it's not that easy to chase it away. e5 is perennially weak. Something like bishop c5 followed by queen f7 could be playable, maybe hoping to bring the queen over to f5. Instead of all that, white will take with the knight, and whichever piece you choose, I'm playing knight d3. And I'm continuing to try to actually establish a piece on e5 instead of a pawn.
Right.
And if that happens, if we are talking about some kind of a position like this, these weaknesses are now going to be a very, very significant issue for black, with the queen coming over to g4, a rook landing on e1.
Right.
And I think Richie's reply here is very much an indication that he's realized he needs to now take drastic measures. It's a good move,
but it just blew up the position, didn't it?
It's a full pawn sacrifice. But he will, after something like this, the engine suggests this move queen d8, because what you don't want to have to deal with is white getting the knight on g5 for free. So if we compare this position, with the other one coming to f3, this is obviously just so much better for white in comparison. So you play something like queen d8, you provoke this trade, and then the king, I think, will pretty much always be pretty safe on d7, considering how completely locked down the center and the queen side is. And you want to play g5. The engine actually even castles long, which is the same thing, but maybe it connects the rook slightly more efficiently. So you want to play g5 with maybe some ideas of g4, ideas of queen h7, queen h1 mate. Those are good ideas. Very sound ideas, if they could come to pass, that would be very enjoyable for black.
Preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, right.
So this is a very, very exciting game now after g5.
Yeah.
But Again, for me, this pawn sacrifice that Richard is embarking on all began with the move f7, f6.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go in this direction at all.
No.
He was having a very peaceful life and...
Whoa, okay, hang on a second.
What?
He snapped took on e5 here.
What?
This is very confusing. Okay. This I don't think is great, and I think I wouldn't think it's great even if I didn't know that the engine screams at it.
Knight d3 ideas.
Let me check what the difference is. If I do this and knight d3, he's given himself the option of playing bishop takes g5 here, which is an important thing because after bishop takes e5, for instance, we can now play queen f7.
Yeah.
And we've removed the h4 pawn from the board, meaning that the rook on h8 is playing.
Okay.
But after fe5, now the engine says we can take first with the bishop and then with the pawn. And g5 survived. If you take knight takes e5 after queen e2, your entire position is hanging. Your entire position is hanging. e5 is hanging, b5 is hanging. If you trade, e6 is very much hanging.
You don't want to lose that.
So, very importantly, I think we actually now want to... And d5 played. Okay, we're not guessing any moves. This is still good for white, but I think bishop takes e5.
Okay, so can we just run through that line again? So, not bishop takes e5, but the other one where there's bishop takes g5.
Okay, so knight e5, we take with, I think, this knight.
Knight to d3, bishop takes
and even here d5 is pretty strong. But if we want to continue doing what we were doing in the previous line, this wins the pawn back and tries to unpin the knight on e5.
Okay.
But yeah, they're playing very quickly because neither of them has a lot of time. Richard is actually down to 7 minutes. Weirdly for us in this tournament, Leinier is actually in control on the clock with a whopping 20 minutes on the clock there.
Be serious.
Yeah, d5 played, and Richard instantly plays bishop c5, transferring it over to the b6 square, and then hoping to launch some kind of an attack on the king side, let's say knight d3, I guess he goes bishop b6.
Prepping long castles where the bishop will secure the king.
And
safely.
here I feel it's actually important for white to play g5, g6, just denying the f7 square, and also very much establishing our own play against the pawn on e6. This isn't objectively particularly good for black, but it's still a very, very messy position, which is very possible to misplay.
Not much time on the clocks. In this one, 27 moves have been played. Bishop c5. I like white's position, Leinier with
the
g6.
position could implode for either side
easily, yes.
Right, you know, the price of an arrow here is going to be very high.
Right.
I like the plan of castling quickly to the queen side.
For
Run
black.
to the seas, yes, for black.
We haven't talked enough about the Nepo game because that game
not
with
for a while,
bring us up to date with what has happened, Peter.
So, in the position that we had on the board when we last talked about it before the Fabi interview, we were discussing the move king b3 here, which we thought was very critical, but Jan went for something that is also very, very logical, establishing this very beautiful looking bishop on d6. This whole construction is now very immobile for black.
Frozen.
Nothing really moves.
Yeah.
The issue for white here, and I think the reason why we aren't really winning here with white, is pretty simply we're a long way away from a threat. We're pinned along the second rank, and after something like g5, g4, white needs to actually invest a tempo in something like king b3. And now the threat would be to play d4, d5, move this pawn away, and play knight d4 with intentions of playing maybe e6, maybe knight c6 check. Those are very legitimate threats. But you can play g3, and now after d5, black is very simply in time to generate this very, very important passer. And it doesn't win, because white always has a bailout with bishop c5. White can even include d takes e6. g1 will be ill-advised, because white actually gets there. The pawn not only promotes, it promotes with check.
Very
with
important.
check, so you don't get mated on the other side of the
The person who
board.
checks first wins the game.
Yes.
Right.
But after f takes e6, once again for white, it's time to play bishop c5. And the simplest here is just to trade the rooks.
Right.
Then you pick up the pawn on e5, and these positions are very, very trivially drawn, even without these two pawns. The structure is very simple. You bring the king in the corner, you put the bishop in the other corner, and you say, please give me a check from somewhere, sir.
Right.
This is not very difficult.
Right.
And Alireza had this option, or the option that he chose, which was to play f6, which removes more pawns from the board, and also obviously allowing knight g4 might be risky, even though engine apparently says you can even go g7, g6 here and nothing bad is going to happen to us.
Wow.
But not allowing it altogether, I think, is a much more understandable decision
approach,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, and Jan has been thinking for quite some time in this position, trying to find a threat to generate. And I think he's coming up short. He's definitely not worse, but with a knight on e2, really only wanting to go to d4, and that square being denied to it. I'm not sure what Black's next move is.
If
Maybe
he gives
rook
up,
e4.
if he gives up on this whole kind of keeping Black in a bind, I was thinking bishop c4. No, bishop c4.
Bishop
rook
c4, you
takes
can't,
c4.
yeah, you can't play at all. Yeah, this is another problem. There aren't really very many moves that
show that to our audience, by the way.
Yeah, bishop c4, both bishop d6 and rook c4 is even cleaner. Yeah, with the idea of this being a discovered check now, and Black wins.
Oops.
Yeah. So.
Well, for me, I mean, okay, I can't play knight d4.
Yasser?
Yeah, I would love to play knight c5.
So how are we getting there?
It's a c3.
C3 and then a4, c5. Yeah. Now, first of all, this I think makes an immediate draw, but I suspect maybe even this doesn't. Oh no, this actually loses to knight a4. You're absolutely right. This is a very strong threat.
I was trying to get the knight active, but I mean, the rook g3 really
rook
chills
g3.
And if the king moves.
We will be taking on c3. Exactly.
And I've fallen
exactly
for
the
that
same
one
mechanism.
Second time, twice, but then I've learned the third.
Every mistake at least twice, Jovi. That's it.
And another interesting mechanism here for making a draw here for white is you always have this check from c7 in these types of positions.
Important.
You will actually not enjoy the position after rook d6, let's say king f7, all that much, because if anyone is playing for a win here, it's probably Black. But you have the immediate draw here with rook c7, and then back to d7, and then back to c7, and so on and so forth. But Jan finally settled on a move. He played bishop c5, and now the simplest once again is just to say, let's get rid of the rooks. He will do this in response. Obviously, we're not giving the exchange while the e5 pawn is still alive, but there is a number.
Sorry, knight c6 check. I was wondering why the e5 peshki. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Angel says we just play king c8, and now we're ready to take on e5 next move.
Give me that pawn.
White has this perpetual on a6, b5 squares, but not very much else. Rook b8 already on the board, by the way. So let's go back to the position with more pieces.
If I'm in Alireza's shoes, I played the move rook b8. I feel this great sense of relief.
He's played it.
Like, whew. You know, getting rid of that rook. That rook was threatening to checkmate me all of those times on g8, on d7, pardon me, and getting rid of it. What a great success. Knight d4 on the board.
Knight d4 played, yeah, king c8 is the cleanest, but you can also probably include some checks with the rook first. I just don't see why you would need to.
Right.
We need to sidestep, we need to sidestep the knight forks. We need to create a threat of taking on e5, so I think king c8 is just a very, very logical move here.
Agreed wholeheartedly. King c8. And Jovi, what is going on in the Richie Rapport game? Because we do have g6 as advertised by Peter on the board. Leinier with 17 minutes. It's so strange for me to think of Leinier as having
more time.
I've got, yeah, first of all, Malta, but it's like 12 minutes more time. I mean, Leinier's fans must be cheering and also feeling like, this is really unusual.
Well, yesterday we saw him leave himself with 1 second to spare before playing.
Well, he did come on the show. Well, I didn't intend for that to happen. Apologies.
Which honestly makes it scarier.
Right? Like, how do you forget that you've got 1 second on your clock?
You get absorbed into the position, right? You know, he was comfortably working out rook g8, rook e4, and, you know, was just completely in a trance, and then he looks at the clock and realizes, oh my goodness me, I have to make a move.
No. Right. He told us he made a move without looking and then looked up and realized he has 31 seconds left.
Yes.
And that is how you lose on time, because of course, if at no point does it occur to you to even look, he told us he thought he had a lot of time.
Right.
Which clearly he hasn't.
It went fast. G5, G6, and this is a reminder to Richie that you're not going to have your way on the king side. You've put your bishop on b6, so of course you're posing the king on g1. The h file's open, but essentially Leinier is saying, I want to play the move knight g5. Furthermore, I want to
followed by
play
queen g4.
Queen g4, hitting the pawn on e6. And thanks to the g6 pawn, I now have a stepping stone, meaning you're not going to double your rooks on the h file that easily.
Anytime soon, yeah.
So g5, g6, it says to Richie, you pay attention, knight g5,
we can probably watch the handshake in real time on the other board, so we could do that, I guess, and then switch to this.
In Nepo's game?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the repetition, and I just see Nepo's body posture is, he's reconciled himself to a draw now.
Players are repeating.
Explain this in a kind of a context, because great preparation by Nepo. Clearly, he put some serious effort into this opening and his preparation for today. He's not being rewarded, Peter.
No, it's a bit strange though, because I'm pretty sure he knows that the evaluation of this whole line is still equal if Black plays perfectly. I think the reason he is sort of upset is what Alireza did is not absolutely the prescribed way to make that draw. So he knows that some moves which are in the first line have been played.
Right.
So he feels maybe he missed something which resembles a win. I think he will be mollified once he gets back to the room, and if our machine isn't very wrong and the cloud machines aren't suggesting something other, completely different, he was never winning. He was pressing, but he was never winning, I don't think. And as soon as he realizes that, I think his feelings of slight disgust with himself will dissipate.
It hasn't been his tournament, right? Because we all remember the round 2 when he was playing Leinier Dominguez. He had several ways to win. And, well, he blew it. He missed them. And then here he's got his preparation in. Alireza doesn't react in the most conventional way. And he must have felt like he had something. His position was very dangerous.
Well, as Peter's saying, he's probably at this moment upset with himself and maybe will be less so mollified, as Peter said.
And let's check out the results so far. And you can see there was a draw between Nepomniachtchi against Firouzja, Levon Aronian and Anish Giri, also a draw. But it was at the top of the table where Fabiano Caruana played a miniature against Wesley So to seize the lead.
Yes, indeed. I'm just playing through the game. I'm looking. I mean, it's just a very accurate game I'm seeing between. Yes, please.
Can we go
let's
to
do
the
it.
Leinier against Richard game? Because I'm just looking at the clock times.
And
Richard. Just under 2 minutes.
No way.
And
that
the
was
position is looking scary.
Fast 5 minutes that just
heading
went.
to f7.
So we just saw the move g6, and we were thinking castles long and getting out of dodge. Instead, knight e7, knight g5. By the way, Leinier playing quickly, staying ahead on the clock. Knight g5, gift me the pawn, and questions are being asked here, Peter. Are we playing king d7?
Well, I'm thinking.
I don't think so.
You don't.
You don't think it, but how are you going to defend
Queen
the
c6 or something? I think queen c6 specifically, because if you play queen g4, you are allowing d5, d4, and the threat of mate in 1 is something maybe that Richard wants to create, at least to
Richard
ask a question.
Ticking under the minute mark for 10 moves. Oh, you can see the stress there from Richard. He's not hiding that one at all. Position is massively complicated. Queen c6 is what we are predicting.
And after queen c6, queen g4 might not even be the most precise way, because if you start with knight f7, you are successfully solving both the problem of black castling queenside and also the problem of he's gone queen d7. Against queen d7, I think we probably do play queen g4 though.
Queen d7 on
queen g4 is very strong. Knight f7 is also massively painful here for black.
Just chasing the rook off.
Also knight d6 check.
Yeah.
I love knight f7. Well, if I force rook f8, don't I have queen h5, by the way?
It's strong, but I think g4 is just a better square. I think keeping an eye on the e6 pawn is going to pretty much always be a more
advantageous.
Thing. Yeah, just like queen g4 immediately or knight d6 followed by queen g4. And one thing I wanted to remark upon, the queen side is actually not completely closed. And once we get the black king to somewhere like d8, You can very much start looking at b2, b3 in every single position there, trying to open an additional source of concern for black. This is just bad.
Queen d7 instead of queen c6. The move queen c6 did have d5, d4, and queen h1 mate on the agenda. Queen d7, the immediate queen g4, Peter?
Also very strong.
F5 is the only action.
It does give black a chance to play rook h6, which is really not that cheerful.
Rook h6?
Yeah.
Not that
Wow.
cheerful.
That's not a move I had on my radar.
Yeah,
No?
giving up on e6, but at least trying to pick up that pawn on g6. To
So what?
solve.
How
Rook
does
takes
it?
g6.
Rook takes g6.
Rook takes knight g7 though. I guess we go king d7 and we claim that this is an
King
improvement.
d8?
Sorry, king d8, because it might be that white needs to trade.
And, go
And then,
knight
yes, we're 2 pawns down, but the knight on g7 is a bit awkward. You have to play knight h5. Maybe we play rook h8, knight f6, king e6 or something, and we claim we have some positional compensation. We don't really, but we can claim it.
King is a king.
King
Two
e6,
pawns.
king g2. It still looks very, very bad, I have to
I would
admit.
say, yeah. But okay.
Yeah, this whole line is
Rook
very logical.
h6.
And it remains very bad for black.
I mean, could
That
you
was a
play knight
surprise move.
f5 instead? That's
Rook h. Yeah, sorry.
After
Knight
queen
f5 is
G4,
certainly.
knight
Knight f5, but
f5.
it just really hates allowing knight f7, knight d6 is the point. After knight f5, we go knight f7, rook f8, knight d6 check. We more or less force you to take. And once you take, the e-file opens, your position starts really collapsing.
Yeah.
And you can't really afford to keep that knight on d6 alive, because like after king g8, we can also just go like king g2, rook
knight
h1, h7.
f7.
Knight f7 is very
board.
good, yeah. Knight f7 is a very solid choice here.
Big question for Richard. What is he going to do with his rook?
And he
Rook
doesn't have
f8.
much time to do anything with his rook. He's got
I
40
mean-
seconds and counting. But, well, you can't go to h6, you can't go to h7, you can't, g8 makes no sense. So
Rook
h3,
f8.
it's rook
Rook
f8 or
f8.
bust.
Probably gets met by the check and then queen g4. And black is worse everywhere.
I'm sorry, say that again,
Yeah.
please.
Rook f8, we give a check and then we go queen g4.
But you can't move your rook anywhere else. If you go rook h3, then king can step up to g2.
I think
or
he's
even
seriously
queen
considering knight takes g6. The only reason rook f8 isn't on the board yet, he's seriously considering just giving up that exchange and getting rid of the
Seven.
g6 pawn.
Six. 5.
And it's
And he goes rook f8.
with
2
seconds on his clock. Did he really intend to go down? Now, you see, this is the thing. Leinier is now playing against an opponent who has 2 seconds on his clock and 30 seconds, and he's probably thinking to himself, my God, this is wonderful.
This is
Look
very
at the
pleasant.
stress that my opponent is under. I mean,
I should be doing this more often from this side. Yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable from this side somehow.
And just to repeat, he made this move, did Richard, with 5 seconds, 4 seconds, counting, 3 seconds. Let's purposefully press our clock. Well done, with 2 seconds.
Oh.
I just
So
hold my
close.
breath every time they do that. I mean, rook, we were looking at this position with queen g4. We thought this was a very powerful position.
Yeah, including the check is never a mistake, though.
Knight d6 check is also very attractive.
Yeah, just to show one important variation
Please.
there, which I think in practical terms just wins the game on the spot. You go knight d6 check. I think Richard might be tempted to take on g6 and hope that he doesn't lose on the spot.
To queen h5?
Queen h5, queen f7.
Okay.
And it might look like we've survived for a second until you realize bishop e3 exists. Let's put this on the board. Queen h5.
Queen h5,
Queen
queen
h5,
f7,
queen
bishop
f7. And then bishop e3 is
isn't-
just a crushing blow.
Ah, okay. I wanted to go d7.
But the bishop e3 preparing d7 is even stronger because
okay.
you cannot
ready.
take because f takes e3 immediately collapses your entire defense.
Right.
And if you're forced to retreat with this bishop, white will have a wide variety of finishing blows to choose from. D7 check followed by queen takes g6,
Yes.
for instance.
Yes. Peter's finally spotted my cheapo.
Right. Working on this tactics helps,
Yes.
doesn't it, Jovi? That's a nice one. And yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, so you go knight d6, you also give somebody who has 30 seconds this choice. And
I probably recognizing that line that you just pointed out is a bust, playing king d8 here.
yeah, and then we go queen g4. And the problem for black is this position has nothing going for it.
Except it's blockaded on the queen side, so that my king might find shelter.
Right, and
king
you live and let live the knight on d6 and just go, you know what, king goes to c7, the rook moves to d8, king to b8.
The way you're describing it, Jovi, I must say you've probably experienced a lot of chess suffering. No problem. I'll live with the knight on d6. Like you're not bothering anybody.
This is where b2, b3 comes in. If not for b2, b3, it would have been bad, but maybe you can, reach move 40, which is the dream by this point. But b3, and this side also starts collapsing, like rook bc1 check here, and you after king b8 once again. That move comes back because I really want to put the knight on c5. Yeah, it's just horrible. and if you have to play this, then tolerating the knight on b6 becomes a bit less tolerable because Instead, queen h5 was chosen by Leinier.
That was my first instinct as well.
Yeah, and d5, d4 played by Richard, and now knight d6 check is once again very, very strong.
And let's pause our analysis to throw over to Anastasia with Nepo.
Exactly. I'm here with Jan Nepomniachtchi. The game finished in a draw. Jan, please show us a few critical moments of this game.
He played Slav, which I would say didn't. I expected it, but was my first. First idea that he'll play Slav, so I knew this line is a long, picturesque line. I think there is one of the main moves is here rook c2. It's queen sacrifice for rook, a light piece into pawns, which is roughly equal, despite computer says it's slightly better for white. So I had instead this move rook c3, which would be winning if not knight e4. So this is pretty much all forced. Just exchange everything, rook c6. Now knight b2 is important because b3 is coming. Yeah, and here, e4 was about the last move I managed to remember. So I know this slightly dangerous for black. So if you see this position for the first time, you can easily make some inaccuracies. So I think one of the ideas was just to play something like rook g2, bishop f4, and bishop a3 check. King b3 and here king e7. Maybe not quite here, but it was one of the ideas. So maybe some move here, maybe rook f2. As far as I remember, it's just some sort of a draw. But what he did, I think it's imprecise already. So here, takes ahead this extra idea of d5, rook g2, bishop f4. So this is already, I guess, dangerous in some way. But maybe it's still, not lost by a miracle. So rook c8. Rook b6, so my idea is very simple, like rook b7 then something. And he played here g5, which is sort of a nice try. And, I think I analyzed this position, maybe a similar one. And so there was this move like bishop b8, which was almost winning or winning. So I, in between bishop g3 and bishop b8, I more or less quickly opted for bishop b8. But maybe bishop g3 was more practical. So, for example, after a5, rook b7, f4, bishop e1. Well, it's hard to believe, but maybe something here should be good enough to win. But I'm not sure. Say bishop d6, giving away the bishop. But I guess still black has some compensation because of these pawns. But I couldn't really recall. So bishop b8 was a nice option not to allow any counterplay. But then instead, I guess he could play g4, and then after rook b7, rook b8. I think it's pretty decent chances to draw a game. Let's say if rook e8, some, bishop move, and g3 with the idea of rook e2. But instead he played bishop b4, and this is hard to believe, but maybe this also holds in a weird way. So bishop
Look very
e5.
scary, yes, for black.
Yeah, but I didn't see. So what I saw was king b3, bishop c7, bishop a7. Let's say king e7 here. So he's trying to run away with his king. So once he gets to f8, I don't think it will be something special. And also I'm even also sure in these evaluations of their position with an extra, with 3 pieces for 2 rooks and 3 pawns, if I'm pawnless. So also it was some fun line here, bishop e5, I wanted to play d5, bishop c5. And here let's say d6, and it would be winning. with d7, but there is always rook c2, like always rook c2, so it never works. So here I should repeat. And also, let's say if here after bishop c7, let's say bishop a7, if we trade king e7, bishop c5 would be smart, but the problem is here he plays against of d6, he takes and plays this.
And again,
and then okay, rook e2, knight on e2 is under attack, yeah, so that's also some tricks. So here black could only be better. So yeah, it was hard to accept, but probably some of these positions should be good, but yeah.
It's really impressive
Maybe
how far
really.
your preparation was in this game. I mean,
Thank you.
It's impressive also.
I'm
that,
also impressed.
that Alireza managed to hold it, yes, at the end. What do you think overall about the situation in the tournament and what's happening right now?
It took only 1 day for me not to come to the playing hall to everyone play a decisive game, yeah. So now I'm back. So hopefully it will be normal level of draws, but I think Wesley did something horrible today out of the opening, so I was quite shocked to, so at least he could try, like, I don't know, like castle after bishop takes c4, but I mean, instead he decided just to, lose in 3 moves. Maybe just a bad day for him, but I guess, there is quite an interesting run for their rating spot for the candidates, so like...
Absolutely.
Looks like everyone is invited. Yeah.
Actually, it looks like that, and tomorrow you are playing with Wesley, so what do you think about it?
No idea. I should first let this game go, and then maybe I will start thinking about the next one.
Okay, so all the best of luck for you tomorrow, Jan. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
We're going back to the studio.
You were interviewing Nepo. We have big breaking news as Leinier Dominguez won his 2nd game in a row to tie with Fabi. And let's have a recap of what just happened. If we got the magic of television working for us, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll for sure
have it?
Gonna have it because it was incredibly exciting. Richard just using the incremental time, and there you can see playing those moves with 2 seconds left on the clock. And the problem was that his position was just dire. I mean, you cannot play with a king in the middle of the board. And here it comes, knight b4 attacking the queen. 30 seconds left on the clock.
And you were mentioning, Peter, that the engine hated the position so much.
It was giving up queen
c5
it was
and allowing knight b7. Richie resigns after that move, knight b4. And it was, as you said, dire. I mean, it was... Everything went wrong at the end, and f7, f6 was a real culprit.
No, but g5 was fine. It's just that he had to connect the idea of g6, g5, and we can discuss it slightly better with the board present in the conversation.
Sure.
I was very, very certain it was a positional pawn sacrifice, and he tried to play. Maybe he thought he will win the pawn on e5 at some point, and if g5, hg5, fg5 was played, his position was still perfectly playable. Let's because we didn't really get to discuss this at length. When I saw the move g5, I thought he's playing really well because f6 maybe was unnecessary, but this was the proper reaction. Just take on g5, keep everything in the center, extremely solid. Bishop takes g5, as I was saying, let's not allow the knight to land on g5 so easily. And after bishop e7, queen e7, I think in practical terms, black just isn't worse. You want to play g5, king d7, double on the h file. You're still keeping even some endgames might not be that clear because your counterplay on the queen side is still very much valid. This is anybody's game, but already after f5, his position was in trouble. g5 wasn't even the strongest move, but even after g5, he was in trouble here. And after allowing the move g5, g6, he's struggling over the board, and he also had, I think, a minute and a half here. So in practical terms, again, somebody who is as careful and as meticulous in his calculation as Leinier is, it was always going to be difficult to save. And if we talk about the final position, it's just very, very, very painful to watch because everything is collapsing. The king is in the center, being attacked from every side. Bishop before g5, constantly an additional threat. You can't really cross the c file. And queen c6, knight b4, you have to go back, and then the position continues collapsing whichever way white prefers. So it's a very understandable place, I think, for him to end the game.
Jovi, I mean, the tournament just exploded.
Totally.
We had 3 rounds of draws, and suddenly yesterday 75%, and today the fight for first place just flared anew, and Leinier is tied for first.
Alongside Fabiano Caruana, and I'm sure that has also shaken up the ratings.
That's true as well, the ratings.
Not only is he tied for first with Fabi in the tournament, with his victory and Wesley losing, I have a feeling he is above Wesley in the rating list now, because he gains, maybe not above, but they are in dead heat, I feel, around the 27.56 mark.
Wow.
As we've spoken about somewhere in the early moments of this show, if he actually gets the rating spot, he still needs to play. If he is in contention, he can't get it so far because he doesn't have enough classical tournaments played within the calendar year.
Right.
But if he is very much in contention, which with today's results he absolutely is, he might be looking for a tournament to play in December. So organizers out there.
No, well, we do have the classics taking place in St. Louis in December. It will be held at the St. Louis University, SLU University, the classics this year. But wow, we'll get an update of the rating for sure. But for Leinier, this is huge. And how does that impact the pairings for tomorrow?
Yes. I mean, things just got heated. Richard Rapport faces off against Levon Aronian. Anish Giri will have the white pieces against Fabiano Caruana. For Dominguez, he plays with the white pieces against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who returns to the board after yesterday's bye. Wesley So has the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi. And for Alireza Firouzja, he
finally gets his bye
because of the withdrawal of Jan Krzysztof
But
Duda.
let's remind everybody, Leinier will be a +2, Fabi will be a +2, so they'll be eyeballing you. Wesley So will be a +1, and he's thinking, I may have messed up my tournament, but with a win against Nepo, things get very interesting again.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, about those playoffs. +2, you said.
Yes.
A lot of people have been mentioning also that the top 3 finishers of the Grand Chess Tour get an automatic qualification for next year's Grand Chess Tour. So this is also now being very much shaken up, and that also remains to be seen how today's results affect those exactly. But yeah, the last 2 rounds promise to be very, very exciting.
Yes, and we are going to go on that note to Anastasia, who is in the studio with Leinier.
Indeed, Leinier, welcome to the studio. Congratulations on your 2nd victory in a row. How does it feel and what happened today?
Yeah, it was a strange game. I mean, I feel like he lost more than I won, but. Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. I mean, it was a very interesting position. Like, we, again, got a pretty new position from move 6 or 7. So I thought that's fine. And but that was why we were spending so much time, I guess. And but I was hesitating too much, and I was changing my plans. And finally, I think he got a very good position out of the opening. So I decided to repeat moves at some point, and he got ambitious, which... it's very understandable because his position, I think, at that point was pretty good.
When he played b5, avoiding this 3 times repetition.
And yeah, with the idea to put the knight on c4 and just keep playing. But I thought my position should still be fine. I mean, I think this when I play g3 now was important. To be able to play h4 after I take on g6, so CD, knight b6.
So this is what happened, yes, and you took on
take,
g6, yes.
So
I think he got ambitious by playing this f6, yes, move. This was a critical moment. Yes.
F6 maybe is not required, but I think if we trade the bishops, probably it's around equal. That was my estimation during the game, but I wasn't sure at all. It's not an easy position to evaluate.
Let's say instead of it, yes, he could take.
Yeah, take knight g5. I don't know. I felt that I was not doing too badly here, but black is obviously fine with the knight on c4. But after a6, yeah, because the thing is that he's king, yeah, and g5 was, I felt that it was too risky, because after takes and f takes, d takes, e5, there's no real way to
reason is to.
Yeah, to compensate. I always have this king g2, rook h1 at some point, and yeah, maybe he can still have some compensation, but yeah, I think the way he played after bishop c5 and then knight d3, I think this g6 was a very good move. And
This is the moment you felt that now you're better.
Yeah, well, already after I took the pawn, I felt that I should be better, and yeah, but here I saw that it's, I mean, it's simply extremely good for me now. It's just out material and huge attack.
Exactly, yes, and you managed to win this game. You know, now there are so many talks about this candidate spot, and suddenly your rating is also became very important for all the standings. So, what do you think about it? Have you discussed it with your trainer? Like,
yeah, it was quite unexpected, I must say. I wasn't thinking too much about this. I mean, I knew that in theory I have some remote chance, but I wasn't especially thinking about this. I was just trying to play a good tournament, but somehow, yeah, things are going well, and it's always nice to be in with a chance. So let's see.
Yeah, tomorrow you are playing against Maxime, I think.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Yes. So it was white. Yeah.
Yeah, I have still 2 games, and yeah, nice position in the tournament. So,
absolutely, yes, plus
yeah,
2.
I feel that I didn't play very well today, but of course, a win is a win, and I'll try to play 2 good games.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leinier, and all the best of luck for you in the last rounds. And we are going back to the studio for final words, I guess.
Anastasia, I have a question for Leinier, if you don't mind.
No.
Leinier, how did it feel to play against an opponent who was in time trouble?
Leinier, how was it for you to play against an opponent who was in time trouble? Tricky question from Yasser, right?
Yeah, it's unusual a little bit, but yeah, what I try to do is kind of forget that he's in time trouble, because sometimes there's this old trick from the childhood, yeah, like you try to play moves with the idea to win on time and just spoil their position. So I was more happy about my position than about the time, but it's always nice, yeah, it's always nice when your opponent is down to 1 minute or so I should think about it from the other side.
Was something unusual for you today, yes, I guess. Yeah, so any questions? Yes.
No, thank you, Anastasia. Okay. Good luck.
Good luck Leinier. For you from Yasser and all the commentators.
Absolutely, fantastic. And boy, did the tournament just explode or what? That was just amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
First, take a look at our
our
standings. Excuse me.
And take a look at that. Fabiano Caruana with 4 points out of 6, alongside Leinier Dominguez, who also has 4 points out of 6. They are in the lead.
Correct.
And then we also have Wesley So on +1, who has 4 points out of 7. So the game disparity is because of Jan-Krzysztof Duda's withdrawal in round 2. Everything to play for, everything is hanging in the balance after today's explosive round. And what a day it's been.
I know. I mean, I couldn't have predicted this. I couldn't have predicted I didn't predict this. Yes. In fact,
did any of us?
I wasn't even close.
Well, actually, Anastasia and our Grandmaster Var Akobian did predict that Fabiano Caruana would be in the lead, but us 3, no, not so much.
Not so much.
Very solid on 50%. I'm happy with my guys' play.
I'm solid on 50%, but boy. Final thoughts, Peter. A very unpredictable round where this is what we'd hoped when the Sinquefield Cup began.
It's unclear why it hasn't started earlier, but we're very happy that it finally has started. And I'm just very much looking forward to the last 2 days, because there will be so many things to talk about, both in the context of this tournament, which is now, I think, wide open, with 3 people very much in contention. And a lot of people on 50% could perhaps play spoiler, and also the whole story of people trying to qualify for the candidates, that is just like completely blown open, with a lot of people now in contention who I think a month ago would have thought no shot.
Exactly.
No shot whatsoever.
Right.
So yeah, very, very exciting 2 more days to come. Stay tuned. We'll be here covering it for you.
Jovi, it was such an exciting
it
day.
Was
it
my
was
pleasure.
What
a kind of
well.
joy it was to commentate on all this action.
I know.
It was absolutely brilliant, and we are going to call it a night. But thank you all for watching, and join us tomorrow for a lot more of the action. It's going to be intense.
Good night, everyone. Wow.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.